of the Sonoma City Council, a regular meeting of the Sonoma City Council on Monday, August 17th, 2020, 6 p.m. Getting a little bit of a late start here at 6:10. We are, as everybody is experiencing, an extreme heat wave, extreme fire conditions, and now there's a risk of rolling blackouts led by the ICO. There's a possibility that this will affect the Sonoma area. We're not sure. We're still getting, as city manager is continuously getting updates from the county EOC, Emergency Operations Center. And so if we do have a shutdown here and the meeting shuts down, we won't know for how long that will be. And obviously the meeting will have to come to a close. So we're gonna have a little bit of a discussion before this starts about what the next steps will be if that were to happen here. So Rebecca or Jeff, you were one of the two of you Jeff was gonna outlay what our options are if that were to happen.
Thank you, Mayor. The council could agree that whatever items are not addressed because of the blackout would be continued to next Monday night, in which case that Monday night meeting would continue to be a regular meeting. If you adjourn a regular meeting to a date certain, the adjourned meeting retains the character of the original meeting. If you don't want to do that, then you may need to renotice the unaddressed items, and that would need to be done probably at a special meeting, or you could agree to just add these items to your next regular meeting, the first meeting in September. So you have three options. I think I don't know what your preference would be. The easiest and simplest would just simply be to continue the items to next Monday night that you don't get to tonight because of the blackout.
Okay. And I'm comfortable with that. I don't know how the rest of the council feels. Is that okay for us to do?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm so yawny today. Is that okay for us to do?
Unfortunately, I won't be available next Monday, so I would prefer a different date, but hopefully we can just get through things quickly tonight.
Well, we need to make the decision now before the blackout occurs.
Well, we'd have a quorum, so I'd say we continue to next Monday and try to get through this quickly so that Rachel can stay on, and hopefully that doesn't happen. I mean, my preference would be like, if it happens right now, I'd rather continue to Monday so we don't have such a stacked meeting at the beginning of September. But if we have like one item left, or like, we get through the vast majority of the meeting, then I would be comfortable, stacking on to the next meeting, just because it wouldn't be that oppressive to the September meeting to add, if we add all of this, that's going to be a problem. If we add some of it, it could be okay, kind of where I'm at. But I'm always trying to strike that middle ground. I'm fine to continue just a Monday and say that.
So since we're cooking Monday then, and the cannabis item is the one item that it seems like a full council needs to be for, could we do that item first?
And I agree with that. I think that would be fair.
Okay, that works. So assuming we get through item 7.1 before the blackout occurs, I guess we would shift everything until next Monday except for item 7.1. If there was a blackout, item 7.1 we'd like to shift to first meeting in September where everybody on council can attend. Are we allowed to do that?
Yes.
Okay, is council comfortable with that?
Yes.
The first meeting is September 7th.
Okay.
No, it's the Wednesday. It's the 9th. It's the Wednesday because we have Labor Day.
Great.
Well, is there a way, Mr. Mayor, to switch? I mean, I don't know what's going on with the consent calendar, but can we switch some of, can we bring 7.1? I know there are presenters probably here tonight. I hope, this may change everything, but I think it's important, and I'd really like to see it somewhere this evening by.
Could we do 7.1 before consent? I don't know that we can do that, but I'm not.
Yeah.
We can?
I think we have to do.
You can reorder the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's,
Yeah. You can reorder the agenda. My only thought though is if you get through to consent, typically it's a quick item and those 6 things then are taken care of. And then instead of doing the administrative urgency ordinance, instead of doing the urgency ordinance first, then pull cannabis first. I am seeing an email from County EOC. It does look like Sonoma is on a list of potential blackouts. And the timing, again, to be determined. I'm trying to get confirmation, but it could have happened any time between, at 5 o'clock. So it clearly hasn't happened already. Again, we'll see what happens. And I think you just need to take a plan and move through what you want to try to move through first.
Okay, so let's do consent calendar and then we'll go to item 7.1.
Did somebody say, was that you, Rebecca?
That's okay. I was just going to ask Jess if it was possible, if we just say that we're continuing the items that we don't get to, we don't have to have all of those items on the August 24th meeting, do we? Couldn't we to decide what we are going to keep on that and just pull the others?
No, we have to agendize, we have to say what we want to have show up on the 24th. So my understanding is that we're going to agendize, we're going to address 7.1 as soon as the consent calendar is over. If we don't get to conclude 7.1, it will be continued to the first meeting in September, but the balance of the items on the agenda will be set for August 24th.
And that means we're going to push Sandy Piotr as well from Fish.
So,
I apologize, Sandy.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask then, Rachel, with that in mind, you're comfortable? Oh, the 24th.
Yeah.
That next, you're comfortable
I think
then?
that's a good plan.
Okay.
All right. Okay, good. Well, let's get it started and get it going. Jeff, do you have a general understanding of the plan? You feel like you got it?
Yes.
All right, great. Great. Okay. So just to reiterate that we are having other reason we could shut down is if we get Zoom bomb, we're having a internet meeting, a virtual meeting. And so if we have a Zoom bomb, we'll shut down, try to restart. If we can't restart, then we will continue the meeting to another time. And we've already got a plan to do that. So that's all to the good. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to go through this. I'm this is going to be the fastest one ever. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it
and
stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with
liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
All right, bang. Done.
And Mr. Mayor, could I just make a request for those people that are here for 7-1? Maybe if they don't understand what we just did, they should know they should be prepared earlier.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Madeline. I appreciate you saying that. We'll go ahead and roll call.
Councilmember Harrington.
Present.
Councilmember Agrimonti.
Here?
Councilmember Cook.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hundley.
Here.
Mayor Harvey.
Present. Great. Report on closed session, Jeff.
Yes, the council met in closed session for the reasons specified in the agenda. The council took no action requiring reporting out at this time.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Here,
Well,
Mayor Harvey, you want to say how you want to rearrange the
Okay,
agenda?
so we want to rearrange the agenda here. We're going to pull item 7.1. We're going to do consent calendar, then item 7.1, then followed by the presentation, item 4.1, and then back into public hearing, and then the rest of the regular agenda. We have a motion to approve the meeting, as I said.
And Mayor Harvey, sorry, one other thing, and just the presentation by Fish will push to the first meeting in September.
Oh, okay. We're going to do that.
That's what I thought I heard you say.
Sure. I thought we were just going to push it after 7.
No, sorry, it can go at the end if Sandy can stay with us. She needs clarification of what's occurring on the.
Well, we're going to have public comment come up. So if Sandy wants to comment on what she'd like to do, would that be okay, Jeff? That would be all right. All right. Great. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda as I step forth? We're going to go through consent calendar, then item 7.1, then either a presentation to Fish or that move. I guess we'll, and then to public hearing and then back to regular.
So, and I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, you have everybody saying things to you, but I think you were also going to be involved in the meeting dedication this evening.
Yes, we're doing meeting dedication. I'm still going to do the meeting dedication. As normal. So we'll do comments from the public and on the meeting dedication.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
All right, great. All
Councilmember
right,
Harrington.
okay, great. Good, yeah, there
Sorry.
we go. My fault.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Agrimonti.
Councilmember,
Aye.
Councilmember Cook.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hundley.
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Just say my video or my audio is barely working.
Mine is too.
All right,
I think it's
so
Mayor Harvey, was that a yes?
we're gonna go on to public comment. Yes. We're gonna go on to public comment 5-0. Thank you. Again, so we're going through virtual public comment. The way this is gonna work is if you're dialing in, you can dial *9, and that will allow you to do public comment. I've got a timer here. We're gonna go, can we go 2 minutes public comment? Items on the agenda just to save some time. So we'll go for 2 minutes of public comment. Does it have to be consistent across the board, or should I just do 3? We'll keep it normal. 3 minutes, but I'm asking everybody to try to keep it tight. Yeah, so you can dial *9. You can also email us. The public comment system will work like this. From the beginning of the meeting until the closure of public comment from the item, you can email us a written public comment. You can also participate by Zoom. Upon being acknowledged by the mayor, please state and spell your name and comment on that. Right now, we're going to be doing general public comment. So at this time, the members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. And just recommend that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less under state law, and there's otherwise permitted under the Ralph M. Brown Act. The merits of this matter presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the City Council at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at the time the item comes up for council consideration. And do we have anybody rising? I'm going to go ahead and open public comment. Do you have anybody rising for public comment? And Sandy, we'd really like to hear from you on what would work best. 5-1 presentation or wait till after item 7.1. And I'm seeing no one rise for public comment.
Well, the convention is on right now, right?
Oh, everybody's watching the convention, I'm sure. All right. We'll go ahead and close public comment. Do we have any written public comment, Latanya?
No, Mayor Harvey, no general written public comments.
Thank you. I'd ask a member of city staff to give Sandy a call and just find out what she'd like to do. Whether that be Rebecca or Kathy, that would be great. And we're going to move on to meeting dedications. So
I'd like to make one.
yeah, of course. I think all of us want to participate on this. So I'll go ahead and let you start, Amy.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to dedicate this meeting to Jewel Matheson, Ken Brown's wife. You know, as a 16-year city council member, Jewel is basically part of the city family and also part of the fabric of the town of Sonoma. And, you know, I did have the honor of talking to Jewel when she knew that she was sick and had decided that, you know, she was going to let it play out how it would. And she had so much incredible dignity and strength. And I told Ken I was really happy that he and the kids were able to be with her at the time she passed away. And I just, it seems very fitting that a city council meeting would be dedicated to her. And also that meeting would be the day that we pick a dispensary, since she was a tireless advocate for cannabis for people who are sick. So.
Rachel, did you want to make comment?
yes, thank you. Sonoma truly lost one of its legends recently. And in honor of dedicating this meeting to her, I wanted to read just a couple stanzas from one of her poems, probably one of her most well-known poems that's been going around, that is called We Have Come to Be Danced by Jewel Matheson. And it says, "We have come to be danced, not the hold our breath and wallow in the shallow end of the floor dance, but the meeting of the Trinity, the body, breath, and beat dance. The shout hallelujah from the top of our thighs dance. The mother may I, yes she may take 10 giant leaps dance. The ollie ollie oxen free, free, free dance. That everyone can come to our heaven dance. We come to be danced where the kingdoms collide in the cathedral of flesh, to burn back into the light, to unravel, to play, to fly, to pray, to root and skin sanctuary. We have come to be danced. We have come." Jewel, you will truly be missed.
Did Madeline, David want to make comments?
Sure, thank you. Well,
Madeline, go ahead.
yeah, thank you. Jewel, it was interesting. She helped me, helped and guided me through different discussions we've had with this. And with Amy, I think I came along through this because, I was the one that did not want a dispensary, but Jewel, helped me and talked to me about expanding my horizons with respect to, things that are available for people who need help through those illnesses and through pain. And I'm very convinced, and I said that throughout the session on this issue, and I appreciated her help for it. And of course, my condolences to Ken. I've spoken to him, and my condolences to Ken and his daughter and his children.
And Mayor Harvey, if I could just say, Ken Brown, I served with him on the city council, and like Councilmember Harrington said, spouses, they and loved ones, members of the family, and friends. When you're on the city council, it's very difficult. And Jewel, is a part of the Sonoma family, and I'm proud to know her. And I have a lot of respect for Ken Brown and call him a personal friend. And my heart goes out to them and the family.
Thank you, David. And I'd reflect the statements made by other council members. I think Jewel was absolutely a wonderful representative in this town and did so much to work with other patients that were going through the same medical issues that she shared through her cancer group, and also work to provide additional treatment for them. And I think it is very fitting that this night that we're honoring her and dedicating this meeting night that we're passing dispensary. It's all the effect that someone can have on a small community like this, and the way that their work and their dedication can really kind of sing out. And so I appreciate the statements made by everybody. Rachel, I appreciate you reading the poem and everybody sharing their experiences as well. So Jewel, we appreciate you. We miss you. We love you. And the best to Ken and your family. Absolutely. Thank you. Any statements from everybody else? We're okay? All right, it's been a tough year. Moving on, we'll go on to the consent calendar. Sandy Piotr, I got notice, is going to be coming on the 24th. If that's when, if we have to do that. If not, she'll come on the September. So we'll move on to consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by a single motion. To be removed for separate action. At this time, the council may decide to change the order of the agenda. We already did that. Let's go ahead with consent. Do we have any questions from council or desire to remove anything off of the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull the item on the hiring of a recruiter.
Okay. So we're going to pull item 5.7. And then we'll go ahead and go out for public comment on the consent calendar. Let's see, no other questions. Do we have anything in their hand? I'm seeing none. Do you have any written public comment on the consent calendar?
No, Mayor
I'm
Harvey.
assuming that never happens. All right, great. We'll go ahead and close. And barring item 5 point, where is it?
8, I believe.
5.7.
Move to approve,
5.7.
move to approve.
Okay.
For item 5.7.
All right, we got a motion by Councilmember Agrimonti, a second by Councilmember Cook. And Rebecca Barr, please have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Agrimonti,
Aye.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hundley,
Aye.
and Mayor Harvey.
Yes. Great.
Thank you. The motion.
So we're going to move on to item 7.1, and then we'll tag item 5.7 in at the end of the meeting or after public hearing. That can be the first of our regular calendar. If that works for Amy.
That's fine.
Okay. So we'll do item 7.1 and 6.1, then on to 5.7 and through the rest of the regular calendar. Cool. We're good. All right. So item 7.1, discussion, consideration, and possible action to select final cannabis retail operator and direction to staff to prepare a resolution for later adoption that one awards a conditional certificate to make the application for and obtain a commercial cannabis permit and to establish a retail storefront commercial cannabis business in the city in accordance with the city's adopted application procedures and guidelines for commercial retail cannabis business. 2, provide direction to staff identifying any additional conditions, and 3, determine that this action is to award a conditional certificate is not a project as defined by CEQA. Let's go ahead and turn it over to David. David's not here. Well, there he is. There he is.
Mayor Harvey, if I can just briefly process, and I'll hand it to David for the overall item. So the process tonight for council will be David Storer, our planning director, will give an overview, a brief overview. Then we'll turn and we'll hear presentations. We'll go alphabetical order. So we'll go Justice Grown first. They'll do a presentation, then council questions. Then we'll go Spark. They'll do a presentation, then council questions. Then we'll come back to public comment, and then come back to any council comments and any council direction. Again, the council will need to pass a resolution on this, but once we get direction, that resolution would come back to you. The plan would be at the first meeting in September. So with that, I'll turn it to David Storer, who's been working closely with Jeff Walter and the city attorney's office on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Mr. Mayor, council members, you may recall that on June the 1st, your council selected 2 of its 5 finalists to proceed to the next process in the evaluations of commercial cannabis dispensaries, those being Justice Grown and Spark. Each of the proposals from that date have 45 days to provide the city with a site and also obtain a ZVL, zoning verification letter. Both of those applicants, proposers, provided the received their ZVLs from staff. That basically confirmed that they could operate in those locations within the zoning parameters once they obtain a use permit. And it also stated that they could that they were located outside of the 4 sensitive buffer areas that the council placed about a year ago into our zoning code. So Justice Grown, their locations on the south side of West Napa in a vacant building at 865 West Napa. And Spark is proposing to locate 19315 Highway 12. El Gallo Pinto Mexican restaurant had just gone out of business there within the last couple of weeks. That would be that proposal there from them. The next step, as Kathy mentioned, is tonight the council will be able to issue a conditional certificate to one of those finalists, which would then authorize them to proceed to the Planning Commission, then ultimately to obtain a CCBP, a commercial cannabis business permit from the city manager. Alternatively, the city council may choose not to issue any conditional certificate at all throughout this process. So tonight, as Kathy mentioned, each of the proposers will give a brief presentation to the council that will try to argue that their site is the best for a cannabis dispensary. And they will be talking about issues like neighborhood compatibility with surrounding land uses and businesses, address traffic on-site and off-site, turning movements perhaps, and talk about how they are addressing any public safety concerns. Your council, even after those presentations, and even after your deliberations tonight, could determine that it would like to do a tour of the sites to help inform you in your decision-making process. Also tonight is an opportunity for the proposers to discuss community benefits that they discussed previously in their presentations to you, where they can also outline their experience in operating dispensaries, that they've actually conducted business and been able to operate and provide some community benefits in those communities that they've been in. You can also ask some of the two proposers tonight if they're interested in modifying their proposals on community benefits. Just as a quick thumbnail on the benefits that were provided previously by Justice Grown, they offered $1 million over a 4-year period without specifically stating how that was going to occur. That can certainly be part of the discussion tonight with council. They're going to be setting up a community benefit board made up of citizens, and they provided the names of those people in the packet tonight. And they've also provided for their employees to engage in the community. Spark has provided benefits that will provide 5% of profits annually to the city, which would be in the tune of about $20,000 to $35,000. They would also be providing in-kind product to those that are needy to the tune of about $4,000 per month. And they would also be providing service support to local charities, and they named Sweet Leaf as being one of those. In your packet tonight, each of the proposers have provided you with floor plans, interior, exterior elevations, photo sims, and some limited traffic analysis, which we haven't gone into as a staff to determine that. That would come at a later time. They've also provided community benefits analysis, or not analysis, but outlined that for you. And in the case of Spark, they provided some letters of support. So from tonight, let's say, for example, the city council does issue a conditional certificate to one of the proposers. That particular proposer would then have to apply and obtain land use permits, and that would be a use permit before the planning commission. And that time period will also be a time in which they would need to receive their building permits and also get a certificate of occupancy, and obviously satisfy all of the conditions of approval and any other issues that are made a part of the condition of this conditional certificate. Again, this all being on the path towards receiving a commercial cannabis business permit, the CCBP. The process for the meeting tonight then would be to ask questions of staff at this point, and also then I have each of the proposers provide their presentations to you, and then direct staff to prepare a resolution should you select one of those proposals to be given a CC. This concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So should we turn it over to the cannabis dispensaries to go forward with their presentation?
And Mr. Mayor, could I just say one thing, and I could be wrong, but here in attachments, it refers to, and I could be wrong, maybe I'm missing something, but 5A, B, C, D say So Park.
Yeah, that's their formal name.
All right, because I looked back and it didn't say that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So am I choosing who goes first, or do we already have it set up? I think we got Justice Brown first to do the.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I had it in alphabetical order, but you might want to ask if there's any questions of staff at this point, and then turn it over to the proposers.
Do we have questions?
Mayor Harvey, before we start questions, could we have the members of Justice Grown who are going to be joining the meeting raise their hands so we can identify them? Thank you.
Do we have questions of staff from council? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and move it on to Justice Grown. please confirm when everybody you need is in the meeting. Looks like we've got Siobhan, Brady, John L., Barry Wood, and that's it that we've got. Is that everybody?
That's everyone who's raised their hand, Mayor Harvey.
Yeah, it is. All right. You may proceed when you're ready. I'm not hearing anybody talk, so I don't know if they're all unmuted.
Are we in the meeting, Mayor Harvey?
You are in the meeting now, John.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We don't see ourselves on the screen, so maybe that's what was confusing us. Siobhan and Barry, are you guys in as well?
We're here. I think we're just missing Ken Brown.
Yeah, I don't see Ken. I don't see Ken in the meeting at all. Unless he called.
The reason you're not appearing is because you don't have your videos on.
Thank you. Let's see if we can fix that. Although it doesn't seem to be giving us that option. And I know Siobhan has a written presentation that she's hoping to put on the screen.
It's true. I'm not having an option to share my screen at this time or the video.
Can we add them as panelists?
They were.
They
So I'm
were.
not sure. Yeah.
It worked out last time.
Not give me an option to change their settings either.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, wait a minute. I think maybe
Panelists.
that. There we go.
There's
Okay.
Siobhan.
Great.
Okay. Let me. Rest of them. Sorry.
And Siobhan, do you know if Ken was having technical?
Let me try to reach him right now. Let's see here.
Siobhan, this is David. I did send him the same materials that you got in the email.
Thank you. I saw that. Hey, folks, I'm unable to reach Ken. Maybe we should go ahead and proceed.
Up to you. Yeah, but we might as well. We're
Siobhan, during the,
potentially very short on time right now. But
Okay.
Short, just depending on when we get a power outage. We'd like to have Ken a part of it, of course.
hey, Siobhan, while you're doing your presentation, this is David. I'll give Ken a call and try to make contact, okay?
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
David.
Great.
All right, well, good evening, Mayor Harvey, Vice Mayor Hundley, and esteemed council members. Thank you for dedicating this historic moment to Jewel Matheson. On behalf of the entire Justice Grown team, I'd like to thank you for your time and service this evening. Ken and I are acutely aware of the sacrifices each of you make and the strain that civil service can place on your families and personal lives. You have a difficult decision to make in front of you. The truth is that both Justice Grown and Spark are great operators and would do a great job serving the city. I want to thank Eric and the Spark team for being good faith competitors. There are many people that have worked to make a cannabis dispensary in Sonoma a reality. But I think we all know we are here in part because of the life work of one woman, Jewel Matheson. For 20 years, Jewel devoted herself to the democratic process of bringing safe access to the Valley. And with council's permission, I'd like to take a brief moment of silence in honor of our dearly departed friend, colleague, and partner, Jewel Matheson. Please join me in a moment of silence for Jewel and her family. In honor of her memory, we are proposing to change the name of the dispensary from Justice Grown to the Jewel Matheson Wellness Center. In addition to placing a pocket park memorial with a plaque depicting her life as a poet, a dancer, the First Lady of Sonoma for 16 years, mother, devoted wife, and friend to all. We strongly believe that our selected location at 865 West Napa Street is the best location for a retail dispensary. You guys know better than anyone. There's not a lot of inventory in the city of Sonoma. We've been on the hunt for over 2 years looking for the perfect location. And I'm really excited to share with you that we found it, we've secured it. And even now, amidst COVID, this is uniquely positioned to respond to the impacts of COVID. The location is centered on one of the most heavily trafficked corridors of Sonoma, and it has more dedicated parking than any other site we considered. Throughout the presentation, I'll be reviewing the following reasons that this location is best suited for a cannabis industry in town. Some of you may remember this spot as the old community cafe, the eatery that supported local farmers. The cafe has been closed for a while now, and the current property has been left in a state of blight. This is the proposed design for our storefront retail location. We thought a lot about how to create a retail space that is adaptable to COVID concerns, meets the requirement of the city and state, and adds to the culture and feel of the West Napa Sonoma Highway Creekside area. This is a Google Earth image of the West Napa Sonoma Highway and Riverside intersection, where you can see the underutilized Creekside area. The county has expressed the intention of widening the Riverside Bridge and making adjustments to this intersection. And the corridor created by our proposed parking plan would further open up pedestrian and bicycle access to the Riverside area from Wine Country Housing and Street. West Napa, 865 West Napa Street is located in an established commercial district. We would be surrounded by 30 other local Sonoma businesses, and we would be thrilled to be in the direct vicinity of pizza places, a bakery, an auto shop, hotels, spas. We think we'd fit in perfectly with this vast array of businesses, and we would be a complement to their many offerings. We're also in, as I mentioned earlier, one of the highest traffic corridors of the city of Sonoma, but we have the benefit of being just east of the intersection, in which we would not be subject to westbound traffic congestion, and the entry into the dispensary would come from the eastbound lane and could flow through the southern boundary of the parcel onto Studley Street, preventing further backup along this highly trafficked corridor. This is a bird's eye view of the parking map. We have 43 dedicated parking spaces and access to street side parking on Studley Street. There are no other adjacent businesses we have to share parking with, or parking covenants we have to negotiate around. We are situated in an active commercial district. Ken serves on the library board, and with his insight, we can be sensitive to and preventatively respond to issues the library may bring to our attention. Lighting up this area, this is a view of the back portion of the property. Lighting up this area with downward casting solar lights and installing surveillance cameras enhances the safety of this corridor and supports safe pedestrian and bicycle traffic from dawn to dusk. We've talked extensively about our security plan, and I'm excited to share with you that this site allows us to implement that plan without compromise. As I mentioned earlier, the unique COVID-19 adaptability to this site is worth mentioning. The large driveway and parking lot allow for easy curbside pickup and also ensures that there's little contact between employees and customers. The blue outline areas on this map show the residential areas in the vicinity of our location. The area that we are in is in a well-defined and highly used retail strip that is separate from those neighbors. We're 4 minutes from the Sonoma Plaza, a straight drive, and about a 20-minute walk from a bustling downtown Sonoma Center. Open space in the form of pocket parks are potential opportunities at the north and south parcel boundaries. The bus stops directly in front of this facility for eastbound traffic, and for westbound traffic, it's directly across the street. Improvements are needed right now for safe pedestrian access to the library, and this project would provide that. Traffic patterns are expected to be substantially, to not be substantial. They should be the same as the previous uses at this location. And I think this project is neat in that it really fosters an opportunity to encourage pedestrian and bicycle traffic through the thoughtful design of the site. Adequate screening and buffering would exist on the perimeter of the parcel. You can see an enclosed trash receptacle, and the landscaping is done with drought resistant and native plants. Here you can see an ADA ramp to access the retail storefront and for employees to accommodate curbside pickups. And the pedestrian path of travel from the parking lot to the retail door is protected from the street traffic and also by this breezeway encased by, excuse me, 2 buildings. The landscaping planters doubles as functional barriers for walkways. And here you can see a handrail and modestly inclined steps beside native drought-resistant plants. The breezeway is wide enough to allow for 6 feet of distance for customers coming to and from the dispensary, and the overhead awning provides adequate shade in the summertime and protection in the wintertime. Outdoor areas for staff meetings, trainings, and 6-foot distance for customer lines. An adobe wall encloses this pocket park, protecting patrons from traffic debris, noise, and accidents. Gates to limit access to the courtyard during off hours. The location of this project is within a compatible use district and should leave the community with a greater sense of peace, quiet, and serenity. This is an aerial view of the parcel and a view from the street. This is West Napa Street on the bottom and Studley Street at the back. And this is a rear view of the property. The open space in the form of the pocket parks are potential opportunities at the north and south parcel boundaries. And here you can see also 43 dedicated parking spaces, no other competing businesses to share the spaces with, and still space for outdoor and curbside pickup. Our interior design has an open floor feel, again, space for social distancing, glass surfaces on high touch points that can be sterilized after each use, natural lighting and transparent security doors that are aesthetically pleasing, an HVAC system featuring HEPA filters throughout the retail floor, a digital menu board to reflect most accurate inventory, natural light and open floor feel, view through the breezeway, and a garage door that can be opened pending BCC approval for open air and COVID sensitive protocols. Visibility on the West Napa Street and skylights for reduced carbon footprint are all part of this design. We feel that we're a perfect match for Sonoma. We have that local heart matched with national experience. We honor the cultural heritage of this movement with paying tribute to pioneering local leader and activists. This location really is best suited to avoid traffic congestion while being flexible to COVID requirements and having plenty of parking. So we've talked to you guys before about our incredible company culture. We're striving to create an ethical and equity-based company culture. And Dave mentioned a little bit before about our community support, but we not only just say that we support staff volunteering, we give them 40 hours of PTO to volunteer at the nonprofit of their choice. We have a community impact board comprised of community leaders who can give us thoughtful insight, and we're committed to donating $1 million to the city of Sonoma. I have over 5 years. And in addition to continuing to foster educational events and community benefits that we have a history of. As I mentioned, we are that local heart paired with the national experience. We are grown by virtue and justice by nature. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to our founder and owner, John Lovey, who will speak for just a few moments about why we're the best operator to run a cannabis dispensary in Sonoma.
Thanks, Siobhan. I appreciate too the opportunity to make our case. And I know that Sonoma has listed 4 factors, and I just want to briefly summarize why we are the best choice on those 4 factors, because obviously you have a hard choice in front of you. The first one is best retail. Only one of the 2 competitors has a property that has a historical use as retail. It's a former, shopping center layout. It's laid out perfectly. It's probably not a secret that both groups looked at this property, decided it was the best property, because it truly is, but it's going to be expensive to redevelop. And we are committed to redeveloping it. But of the 2 properties, one is a restaurant and one is a retail use. So I think that goes in Justice Grown's favor, as does the neighborhood factor. We're taking a blighted property and we're bringing economic activity and culture to a part of town where we're balancing it out. And Siobhan talked about the neat part of our project is it's going to create a corridor between the neighborhood, the residential neighborhood behind, connecting Studley and West Napa, so that the neighborhood will flow through, which is going to be good for the neighborhood and good for our business, obviously, pedestrian, bicycle traffic as well as unlocking that community and giving access to the main corridor. Now, I've made the case that Justice Grown cuts better on retail and neighborhood, but there can be really no debate that we are better on the last two. So congestion, there is an obvious choice here. Our competitors have selected on a very busy part of downtown between two very busy traffic lights, and during rush hour and crowded times, it's already crowded. They're proposing to bring 50 to 100 customers into that crowded area. It's just not going to work. We are going to decongest downtown by drawing traffic to another place. And we even have the luxury of curbside pickup, which is obviously going to be impossible in a busy part of downtown, because as Chiffon said, we're just off the main area. So we have the same access. We're only a minute away. All patients and customers will have the same access, but it's a much better, unequivocally better from a congestion standpoint. And that's a big deal. We're also unequivocally better from a parking standpoint. We have 43 spots. Our competitors have a lot with 52 cars, but other businesses have 25 of those spots. And for them to get to 27 spots, they have to assume that the apartment and the other business is going to use 0 of the communal spots. I think more realistically, they're between 20 and 25 spots. We're literally double, and that's not a small factor. When both sides are talking about servicing between 50 and 100 customers an hour, you need a sweet spot of about at least 40 spots. If you have less than that, it doesn't work. Think about it. How do you service 50 customers an hour or 100 customers an hour if you're competing with the apartment buildings and others for the spots? So again, you're not going to make your whole decision on parking, but you have an unequivocal favorite on parking and congestion, and we are the favorites as well on retail and neighborhood. David mentioned that we should mention, our company as well, our experience. Both us and our competitors are experienced operators. We obviously have an excellent team. We operate dispensaries in multiple states. Siobhan alluded to the fact that we're a national company that has, the best access to the best brands and the best pricing, but we're really a special kind of cannabis company because we don't have shareholders, we don't have investors. We're proud to have built this ourselves, and we answer to our values. And we have built this cannabis company that is true to our values in terms of diversity, in terms of community. It's really, really quite special. So that brings you to the community benefits, where I'll end. And I said it again, I'll say it again. You guys have a hard choice, but it should be an easy choice with benefits. Our competitors are pledging 5% of profits. Profits is a funny thing in cannabis because of the 280E and the taxes. Most cannabis companies try to have no profits. We aren't going to play any games with it. We said we will match any of our competitors. One of our competitors proposed $1 million pledge, and that's what we're going to do. And that's going to mean that it's going to take us longer to actually make money. We're essentially going to be running as a nonprofit for a not insubstantial amount of time. We're okay with that because we are not a purely for-profit business. We are a social justice cannabis company founded by civil rights attorneys. And if we can use cannabis even to break even, but create $1 million worth of community benefits, that's a huge win to us. We don't have to answer to shareholders. We'll have a lot of fun giving away $1 million, even if we didn't make money and didn't lose money. We're obviously going to try to be successful, but we are unique in that way. So I heard David say that we could talk about expanding our community commitment or expand our application. I just want to remind the council, that we are a law firm. Civil rights law firm is the founders of Justice Grown and our civil rights law firm, and we stand ready and able and willing to provide free legal services to Sonoma in the event that the ballot initiative and the referendum creates legal problems. And we're not trying to compete with anybody or create problems for any other lawyers, but we view this as a partnership with your city. And if you guys need us, we are there, and we're more than happy to provide that pro bono. So for all of these reasons, we hope you pick us. And I suppose we open to questions.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask David, I do believe Mr. Ken Brown has been able to join us. I wasn't sure if John or John wanted to promote him so he could provide some words.
Looks like Siobhan may be.
Yeah, looks like Ken is joined us. Ken, you have yourself on mute.
Ken, if you want to unmute yourself, if you have something to add, we appreciate you being with us.
Ken is admittedly the least technical member of our team.
There's a little microphone on the bottom left. You click that, it'll unmute. Or Rebecca, I think you can unmute it for him, can you?
No, I've asked him, I can send it, but I can't unmute him.
You
Unfortunately.
can also try dialing *6 if he's on his phone.
Siobhan, would it be presumptuous for you to introduce Ken, or?
Well, I don't know if Ken needs much of an introduction with these folks, but I've known Ken Brown since I was about 7 or 8 years old. And I've mentioned before, it's a great professional honor to be partnered with him now and working on this project together. I was in high school when Ken and Jewel were fighting for this issue. And so it's quite a heavy moment to be here without Jewel tonight. And I think I speak for our entire team to say that it would be a great honor to be awarded the opportunity to serve the patients of the Sonoma Valley. It would, I think, be the perfect ending to the life's work that Ken and Jewel have committed to over the last 20 years. And grateful for the opportunity to present our team to all of you.
Looks like Ken is off mute.
Hey, Ken.
Do you see me?
We don't see you, but we hear you.
I am truly touched by all of your heartfelt comments. You knew Jewel, and you knew what she stood for. And Jewel felt that Justice Grown stood for her own values. And I share those values with her.
You can.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Ken.
Ken. I appreciate you being with us, and I appreciate your comments. Do we have questions of Justice Grown from council?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, a question, if John perhaps or Siobhan could outline how over the 4 or 5 years, how those payments would accrue to the city. I understand the concept, but I'm not quite sure physically, technically how that would work. That would be helpful to staff.
I can address that. And I think it was Councilmember Harrington who said, you know, I don't want anybody, what if we're not here in 2 years? Who's going to remember this? This would be a contract, just like any other, you know, vendor that the city has, and we would be obligated on set intervals, and we said once a year, to make these payments. And it would be a contractual obligation, and we would honor it, and you would have an enforcement right if we didn't. And what we would do is work in partnership with the city to decide where the money was going. And Siobhan, this is a subject that Siobhan spends a lot of time on. You know, for a cannabis professional, sometimes I think her favorite part of the job really is deciding how we're going to partner with our communities. But Siobhan, can you speak a little bit more about if you had the luxury of having, and I believe it's $200,000 a year for 5 years, or but it could, yes, $200,000. You know, how you would see allocating that in Sonoma, Siobhan.
Sure. Yeah, I think that when I talked to Jewel about some of the work that Justice Grown has done historically, the thing that really resonated for both of us was the work that we've done with Verity, Sonoma County Soul Rape Crisis and Domestic Abuse Prevention Center. Excuse me, and the lack of support services that exist for this population of underserved women and children. So as some of you may recall, we have over 5,000 square feet dedicated in our dispensary to Verity's services and workshops, meetings. And so the discussion of being able to provide a satellite space in Sonoma Valley for this nonprofit spoke to both of us. Now, of course, the money that we are committed to donating to the city would be at council's discretion as how it should and needs to be used. And I wouldn't be quite in a position to understand as clear as you folks as to where that money needs to be allocated, especially with COVID concerns going on. But the issue of supporting women and children, people of color, and identifying opportunities for us to support these groups has been true to our hearts for a couple of years now. But the donated money would be used at the discretion of council.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, could I ask a question?
You may.
Okay, Siobhan, I was looking through the material because I thought I saw, or maybe I read a letter of support for different organizations currently. You do some things in Santa Rosa, is that right? I don't know, I'm sorry. I'm just.
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks for asking and opportunity to address. So I've served on the Hemp Advisory Council with Sonoma County Department of Agricultural Commissioner Tony Winiger. I was appointed to the Sonoma County Cannabis Advisory Group by Linda Hopkins. I've recently been appointed to the board of the Sonoma Clean Power Advisory Group, also by Linda Hopkins. And I also serve on the board of the Sonoma County Conservation Action Fund for Education. So I do a lot of volunteer work. And I recently have been accepted into the Daily Acts Leadership Institute. I'm excited to start that course with some other caring community members.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And, our margin,
Clarify the question. What are you expecting the local taxes to be under your financial plan where you're able to make the $1 million payment?
I don't remember what the local tax is. I know that at the time we did our projections and did our calculations, we were confident that we could make this payment of $200,000 a year, that early on it was going to eat up most of our profits, and that hopefully if we were successful, we could start becoming profitable. But I don't, Councilmember Harrington, I guess I was wondering if you probably know better than I what level Sonoma's local tax was. I don't remember. Remember.
It hasn't been passed yet. It'll be on the ballot coming up, but I think there was a question about whether it was better to take a community benefit, sort of a donation model, or was it better to just charge a higher tax so that the city would get that money and direct it as an alternative, as a different model, instead of a community benefits coming directly from the store to the community, but instead just tax, have a higher rate of tax and then do it that way.
Aha, it was a trick question. There is no tax. No wonder I couldn't think of what it was.
I suppose we had discussions at this council about what the tax should be, and I just wondering if that into your economic.
What we did when we did our economic planning, we assumed a comparable tax rate to other municipalities, and so we weren't trying to be double counting. Hopefully, if you chose us and you understood we were going to be generous, you wouldn't overly squeeze us on that end too. But we assumed a fair tax and planned for it.
Yeah, we did calculate a Sonoma city business tax of 4%, I believe, in our budget is what was in the budget.
Oh, great. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. You have the site that I think was, or at least in my mind, was sort of identified with John early on, who has the ballot measure on. Has any discussion happened with John Early? And if you were the successful purveyor, would that still be on the ballot, or do you know anything about that?
Well, that's a question for John Early, but we are negotiating and we're talking to John Early. I can't speak for him.
Okay, thank you.
If we won, we might be able to help.
Thanks. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Very good.
Other questions from council?
I have no questions.
You have no questions? Or did you say I have
No questions.
No question. Okay, good.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, no questions from Rachel. All right. I additionally have no questions. Yeah, I guess I do have one. I'm kind of confused because it says in your community benefits piece that you are committed to and working with the following nonprofits, and you list Hampshire Sports, Sonoma Lalu Center, Pets Lifeline, Friends of Sonoma Helping, Redwood Empire Food Bank, and Verity. And then you're stating that it would be up to count, and then you have a list of people that will be on your community benefits team, and then you're saying that it's going to be up to council that we're going to receive the money and then determine how it gets doled out. So is this referring to something else? What's the discrepancy that I'm missing there?
Yeah, if I may, Mayor Harvey, I think that is something separate. And those are nonprofits that we have identified wanting to work with, and nonprofits that will present to our employees potential opportunities for them to volunteer at. But the $1 million commitment to the city is separate from the benefits that we would be bringing to the nonprofits in the Valley.
Okay, so it's referring to the volunteer time. Okay, cool. That works. All right, great. I have no additional questions at this time. Actually, I have one more. Your site, you said that it provides greater access to the river, and I don't understand how that works, because it's between West Napa and Studley. I live somewhat close to there, and so I don't really understand how you guys are providing better river access and better biking and all that. So you can
Go ahead, Siobhan.
Our thoughts are that right now that property is in a state of blight. There's no longer a corridor to allow pedestrians or bicyclists to go from Studley Street out onto West Napa Street. So our thoughts are, with the pedestrian pathway that would be illuminated and the paved parking lot, it would support people going to and from that side of the sort of residential neighborhood out to West Napa Street. In addition, the Sonoma bike path stops right at that intersection. I think we can all acknowledge there's room to make that a little bit safer, but connecting the bike path to a residential area and getting some of the bicycle traffic off of West Napa Street would be supported with our parking plan proposal. From from being a kid out there and walking from the library and then through the car wash area, it's not the safest path of travel for a lot of pedestrians. So having some place to do that close to the library to get access to the other neighborhoods behind that commercial strip is what we were referring to create and open up that corridor to the Creekside area.
Okay, it's just the library connects this to well. I think another one is nice. So you're going to be building a pedestrian pathway between the two that's going to be lit at night is the idea. Okay, cool, good. I have no further questions. I guess we'll thank you for your time. I appreciate the immense amount of work that this has been, and I appreciate you coming forward with the proposal. And your time in front of council and everything else. And we'll move on to Spark. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Harvey, council members.
The individuals from Spark could raise their hands. Okay.
We got a whole army. All right.
Okay, do we have everybody on?
I think we're missing Eric and
There-
Joe.
I see someone, there's only one person raising their hand and it won't allow me to promote them.
There's Joe.
Yeah. I'm not sure who the 707 number, oh, the hands down. Okay.
Do you see Eric Pearson? in there?
Siobhan's back in now. We should remove Siobhan.
It's taking us a minute to get them in and out. So
Oh, this whole process is very new. Well, not new anymore, I guess it's been, but it's cumbersome still.
And I say prayers every night that I'm not mayor. You're doing a wonderful job, Logan.
Thank you. I've tried.
I'm down even to the clap.
I've been separated from my gavel for far too long, and it's
I
makes me
know.
sad,
I
but
can do without a gavel.
we're working it out. I'll go get a hammer. We'll figure it out. Okay, great. So we have Spark here, and I guess take it away, whoever's leading your presentation. Thank you.
Great. So hello again, and thank you, Mayor Harvey, Vice Mayor Hundley, and Council for your time this evening. My home address is definitely on the list for the power outages, and in fact, during this meeting, I've been getting texts from PG&E, so please forgive my brevity. To reintroduce myself, my name is Joe Golowski, and I'm the VP of Human Resources for Spark, and a longtime Sonoma County resident and a native of the North Bay. I also want to take just a quick moment to speak to the incredible loss of such an inspiring and beautiful person. When I was diagnosed with my own cancer in 2018, I listened many times to Jules' CD that she had given me way back. See, I'm saying CD, so it's actually been a minute. Way back in the days of peace and medicine, and I found such joy and beauty in her words, and I'm really grateful to her for that. My heart goes out to all who loved and knew her, and I know that there were many, many, many people. So I just wanted to take a moment and say that I'm also, thankful and that my heart goes out to all of you. So I've been with the company since 2009. And I've been honored to be a part of the incredible team that has helped pioneer legal access to medical cannabis and then regulated adult use and cannabis in Sonoma County. I want to take a moment to reiterate that first and foremost, we are and always have been committed to the communities that we serve. We have over a decade of direct positive impact to our local communities. The owners, operators, and management of Sonoma Spark are all local residents and have very deep roots in Sonoma County. As you can see at the bottom of the first slide, which I don't see up yet.
Is it not showing?
Nope.
Can you guys not see my screen?
There we go. No, it is. It's showing now. As you can see towards the bottom of the first slide, we do have an extensive list that just begins to barely touch on our long history of engagement within our communities. It includes the Sonoma County Oncologists and Nurses Association, the Oakmont Senior Community, the Sonoma County Section on Aging, we have our Compassion Program, and so many more. We're sincerely excited about this opportunity, and we really, really look forward to bringing the same level of engagement and benefit to the city of Sonoma. I'm going to now hand it over to the rest of the team to give you an in-depth review of our location and answer all of your questions.
I'm just going to try to flip. If I go back to full screen, can you still see my screen now or no?
You're good.
Sharing is paused. Resume. Oh, sorry. There it is. Sorry.
Now it's just dark with pan.
Yeah. I think it just, you have to click desktop. There we go. Now you're seeing everything? Okay, sorry. All right, technical difficulties. Okay, so just to walk you through the design of our Sonoma store, Spark has been awarded multiple design awards for our design stores in San Francisco, and we're underway a remodel in Santa Rosa. And we've really articulated the way the store should flow Before COVID, we kind of designed this to have multiple zones of interaction for very quick interactions, coming in with an express pickup, order online, pickup in store, which skyrocketed to basically 100% of our business for the last several months, as well as a sort of a more engaging experience so customers can sort of learn. They can have a one-on-one conversation or consultation with customers, with member consultants. And we've sort of taken that to the location here, as you can see our 3D street view of the store. And basically the interior look is very sort of clean, very, brings some of the elements from our farm, which is just down the road in Glen Ellen. And we look forward to having a lot of engagement with both education and how we cultivate and how we manufacture all of our products, also in Santa Rosa, and have multiple areas within the store for customers to really sort of get a feel and learn if they'd like. If there's obviously a tourist town, right? And so we want those folks coming from out of state or out of the area to really be able to engage. And also for the folks who just want to get in and out, they can do that as well. And so as we move on to the overview of the location, we do have 28 designated parking spaces. We will not be competing with the tenants who have their own specific parking spaces. So there's no concerns there. We have 28 designated, and after the hours of 5 o'clock and on weekends, we also get all of Mary's Pizza House parking spaces. So we have 28 all the time, plus their 14 or 15 when they're not in service, which is actually our busiest times in the evening and the weekends when their offices are closed. We are on a high traffic corridor, but we have our traffic consultant who will speak to a little bit more about that, but we have a nice turning lane there with access. And, we don't propose any dramatic altering of the conditions. While our location is a restaurant, the prior location, the previous competitors just announced, used to also be the cafe, as well as a beer garden and tasting room. So they're both similar uses in their past. And the restaurant that did just close, part of our signing the lease there and winning the location will alleviate their obligations of that lease, which is a very unfortunate situation for them, having to close their business due to COVID. As we move on here, you can sort of see the cosmetic changes that we're proposing to sort of like make the aesthetic from the road look a little more appealing. And the interior remodel is a very quick remodel. It's very little construction to do, so we know we can have the store open extremely quickly. We have experience with this in some of our other locations around the Bay Area, and we think that was a key component in our decision. We did look at up to 10 different locations around town, and we landed on this one for parking, speed of construction, and getting the store open, as well as compatibility with adjacent uses of commercial, lots of commercial uses right in the same corridor. As you can see with this picture here, we've got the Lucky and the Rite Aid complex, as well as the gas stations and the car washes adjacent right next to it, and Sonoma Fit across the way, and several the car dealerships and a few other spots all along that corridor. It's all in the same neck of woods. So we actually agree that having either of these dispensaries a little bit further away from the core of the square is a good idea for town. The neighborhood compatibility, we have a very strong safety and security staff, which Josh can speak to a little bit. And we will be following through with all of our protocols like we have both in Santa Rosa, where we do walks through our parking lots, and have people constantly posted out at the door to ensure that there won't have any issues with neighbors or staff walking around, or customers walking around or loitering in the parking lot.
Correct. If you want to go back to that
Sure.
slide. So we do look forward to supporting and collaborating with our neighboring businesses, similar to like we've done in Sebastopol and Santa Rosa. We've developed great relationships with our neighbors, local businesses, other people that provide resources and services for us and help out. Our safety and security of staff members and community is our top priority. Our safety team conducts regular patrols of the immediate surrounding areas of our dispensaries and parking lots to address, prevent, and deter potential nuisance activity like Sean was speaking of, which include things like loitering, consumption of alcohol, consumption of cannabis, redistribution, loud music, double parking, blocking of driveways, things like that. And we always do so in a very professional, respectful, and compassionate manner. We will implement and enforce our existing community contract / good neighbor policy that all members and employees are required to sign and adhere to. Members and employees are expected to be courteous and respectful of the surrounding neighborhood. We are looking in our current operations in Sebastopol and Santa Rosa are part of the community. And we will have also 24-hour access to management to immediately resolve complaints and concerns. We have a very robust security team, very highly trained, can communicate really well, trained in de-escalation, trained in active listening, and how to handle situations appropriately without kind of being the overbearing security guards that people kind of have experienced before. And then I believe the next slide is going to be passed on to Cameron with W Lanes.
Great. Thank you. My name is Cameron Nye, traffic engineer with W-Trans, consulting firm headquartered in Santa Rosa. We've done quite a bit of work with Spark over the years, most recently with the expansion of their dispensary in Santa Rosa, as well as a cultivation project in the county of Sonoma. And we are happy to be on this project as well. So we were asked to conduct a preliminary access analysis for the feasibility of the site in terms of traffic, which we documented our findings in a letter report, which should be included in your packet. And I wanted to kind of summarize a little bit of that here tonight. So as you guys know, the project site's located on the west side of Sonoma Highway, State Route 12, and as such has direct access to regional traffic, meaning that turning movements into and out of the site will be from a state facility rather than a local city street. Based on some Caltrans counts posted on their website, the roadway has about 11,000 vehicles per day, with about 1,400 vehicles during the peak hour. One of the things that's important to note about this site is that although the Sonoma Highway corridor can be congested during peak hours, there's an existing two-way left turn lane. So northbound traffic turning into the site would have a dedicated space to do so without impeding following traffic trying to move through the corridor. And then similarly, in the southbound direction, the travel lane is about 20 feet wide. So motorists making a right turn into the site would be able to move to the side of the street. And again, following drivers would be able to go around with minimal impact to through traffic. During our review, we visited the site and we checked sight lines at the driveway. There's no visual barriers in the roadway, so that's a benefit for maintaining adequate sight lines. Our report was able to conclude that there would be adequate stopping side distance at the project driveway for all turns into and out of the site, based on the recommended stopping side distance criteria published by Caltrans. And then while we didn't specifically look at parking in our report, as mentioned earlier, project site would have an adequate supply of parking. So I do want to mention that the report that we provided was an access analysis looking at on-site circulation and the access conditions surrounding the driveway. It is not a full traffic impact study, so we didn't look at any operational impacts in the surrounding vicinity. That would come at a later date. But we did check on-site circulation, and the existing layout of the site complies with city design standards, so there's no anticipated issues with that. And in general, the site is a good fit for the proposed use. While we didn't look at trip generation specifically yet, but you're probably looking at about 90 trips during the peak hour based on standard Institute of Transportation Engineer rates, which translates to probably about 40 customers. And and the existing or previous use now of the restaurant, you're probably looking at around 60 trips during the peak hour. So pretty consistent in the number of trips. The site was designed for commercial uses and appears to be a good fit. That's it for me.
Thanks, Cameron. Kelly?
Hi there. I am going to speak a little bit about the monetary side of our community benefits. I believe Amy will follow me with some specifics about the different agencies and different organizations that we are going to be helping with. But as far as the monetary side of it, we are a local business. Our headquarters are local. Our employees are local. Our owners are local. Therefore, what we spend money on directly goes back into the community. If you look at this, what we have up right now, using the 4% as a proposed gross receipts tax for the city of Sonoma, including 80%, which we're hoping to go for more, but 80% of our employees being local Sonoma Valley residents, purchasing all of our goods and our services directly in the community, or a substantial portion of them, because the contractors we know are in the community, the lawyers we know are in the community. We shop in the community, plus our community outreach. The direct community impact in Sonoma over the first 5 years is almost $7 million. And that is substantial, and it's direct. Just not only from our direct community outreach support, but also from supporting the local community by being local community members. Sean, if you want to, thank you. You read my mind. So in 2019, just to get an idea of what we spent directly in the county of Sonoma with the Spark organization, it was over $9 million. And that is because our manufacturing, our cultivation, our employees, our owners, plus our community outreach is all located in this county. So these are it's a direct spend into the community, not just with what we're donating and charitable donations and donations to organizations, but because by being open and by truly being a local community member, our organization puts our money straight back into the community. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
So good evening, council members, Mayor. Amy Jenkins. I'm here to talk a little bit more about the direct community benefit that we've talked about and covered in prior council meetings. So appreciate your indulgence. So we have committed to donating up to 5% of our profits. That would be our contractual obligation to the city. We have spent considerable time and energy trying to determine how we would like to direct those resources. And what I would say to you is that we have every intention of stretching those resources to the maximum extent, but we did want to focus on a very specific community partner that is based on our own experiences as local residents. And as many of you obviously have experienced firsthand, we too had experiences associated with the 2017 North Bay fires. Our Glen Ellen farm was compromised. Our cultivation, our cannabis was destroyed in that fire. And so we really wanted to think very specifically about something where we can really invest some time and energy and resources. We've been reading and tracking for some time Sonoma Valley Education Foundation and some of the other work that's being done by our education partners to support youth experiencing trauma. We have been in communications a lot with Mary at the Sonoma Valley Education Foundation about that work. And what the findings suggest is that any child that is experiencing trauma, it does affect their ability to learn. And so we do want to focus considerable time and energy and monetary support in furtherance of their programming developed to address trauma, not just associated with fires, but obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic and any other mental health trauma that is affecting our Valley's youth. So that is one area where we are planning to spend considerable time and focus, and we're really, really proud of that work that we've already put in and are looking forward to that ongoing partnership. Additionally, on the next slide, we want to also continue to focus our direct community benefit with La Luz. We've been working with them extensively over the last couple of years. We've actually hosted essentially some different themes, pumpkin giveaways, and other things that benefit the local residents in the Springs area. We want to continue that investment. We know we've talked about in the past, but I think we want to reinforce the fact that we have worked with them consistently to employ workers on our cultivation site in Glen Ellen, and are also looking forward to partnering them with to identify other employment opportunities for local residents that La Luz is supporting. So that's those are the two areas of primary focus. But as I said before, and I'll say again, we have every intention of stretching our resources and our charitable support to the maximum extent. I have lots of plans for how we want to allocate those funds. And I think our experience and our work that has been done and our support for charitable programs in other communities really speaks to that. And we want to bring that to Sonoma. So next slide, please. So the other component of our community benefit plan involves our compassionate care commitment. Spark has a very, very long and rich history in supporting compassionate care programming for those who have serious illness that would like to receive medicinal cannabis. We supported a number of groups in the past, including Sweet Leaf Collective. We would like to expand that programming to Sonoma Valley and have done some preliminary reach out to Vintage House. We also want to continue to reach out to our faith-based and other nonprofit partners and have committed to annually donate up to $48,000 in premium cannabis product to support low-income patients in need and those needing end of life care and support through the medicinal benefits of cannabis. So this is, again, part of a long, rich history of giving that this company has committed to, and we want to, again, continue that and bring that to Sonoma Valley. So with that said, this will essentially conclude our presentation tonight. We want to thank you for all of the time and effort that you have put into making this decision. We're very, very passionate about what we do, and we want to applaud the work of our partners, but we would certainly argue that we are the best choice for this valley. We're local, we live here, we're intending to continue to invest in this community, and we hope that you consider us tonight as you make this difficult decision.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Amy, and the rest of the Spark team. Do we have questions for Spark from council? Madeline, if you're asking a question, we can't hear you because you're muted.
Okay. I'm not good at visualizing things, but I noticed with some of the photos I've seen, you're really going to open this up. Is that right? It looks like you're going to have it's going to be quite large. I couldn't imagine the original restaurant looking like that. So I'm pretty fascinated by whomever is, conceives that.
I can speak a bit to that. I think the first thing when it comes to design is we're coming into this with a very open mind. We fully expect planning to have a lot to say about the design and the way the store fits into the community. From the inside, the space is really, I don't know how many have been in there, but
it's a Mexican restaurant with really awesome organic tile work. And we haven't really dove into the interior design yet. We showed you what we're doing in Santa Rosa, and that will very much largely impact the design inside. But a large touch of Mexico is going to be in there. I don't know how else to put it, but I don't know if we're going to recycle the tiles or what we're going to do, but it's right in the community, which is a Latino community, largely from Mexico in the Springs, and we look to bring that community into the space. As far as opening it up, yes, it's a large space though, and it has a kitchen in the back, and so not quite sure how to program all of it yet. But there's been some talk about potentially having a community kitchen. There's an outdoor space possibly for food in the future. A lot to really be discovered still, and working with the city to find out exactly what the community wants, as well as our bureaucrats and regulators want, is something we intend to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Amy, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. Rachel, David, questions?
No questions for me.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, David here. Since we have W-Trans available, could they talk to the issue of the staggered parking, the offset, notwithstanding that we have residential use, and also the business building there, how those numbers work? It's not so much just the off-street parking, but the ingress and egress of the project.
Sure.
Maybe they can spend a few minutes on that.
Sure. Are they included already in our group?
Yes, I'm here. So while we haven't exactly looked at parking, it appears that there would be an adequate amount of spaces provided on site. And so it was mentioned earlier that there's actually some compatible uses on the site with some of the office space that wouldn't necessarily be there on the weekend, which would actually add some additional surplus supply to the dispensary. So all the parking spaces within the site are designed to the city code and the standard parking size dimensions. So access within the site itself is also expected to function acceptably.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could follow up on that. While the site may well be very indeed parked to code, our code is pretty liberal at one space for 300 for retail and business offices. But being unfamiliar with this type of a land use, what happens if things blow up and it's a very successful site? You do more so than the 100 per hour. What's the default position at that point?
If that's a question to Spark, or I can respond to that. So as I mentioned, the Mary's Pizza has an additional 14 spaces that at the hours of 5 o'clock every day become accessible to the restaurant, and additionally on Saturdays and Sundays. So that would put us at 40 spaces for nights and weekends, which is exactly the same number as the other location has. So I don't perceive that as an issue. Additionally, customers we have, as I mentioned, these zones within the store. So we have pickup, quick pickup, order express pickup, and we have people who come to shop. And the percentage of order ahead and pickup at this moment is standing at approximately 70%, Jesse, still? Correct. So each customer is in the store for less than a minute or two. So
I think if we can encourage you, go to spark.co. We've spent the last year working on our website to streamline our e-commerce. It's really important to have space inside the store for seniors and people who are new to medical cannabis to actually get the consultation. But 95% of the people that walk into the store already know what they want. So if they can order in advance and walk in and pick up their item, then it reduces the amount of time in their store and turns over traffic significantly more than average retail.
Yeah, I mean, if on the weekends we had one person come every minute with 40 spaces, we could suffice 2,400 people an hour, which is far greater than 100 that we're projecting.
I just want to jump in here too and make a quick comment. If we're looking at, 40 or so customers during the peak hour, then you need to look at the average length that a customer spends on site to really back out some parking numbers. But if we're looking at, say, a customer spends 30 minutes on site, then you're looking at a demand of 20 spaces for 40 customers within that single hour. So you don't necessarily need the total amount of parking spaces per customers within an hour, because not everyone's going to be on site for an hour, if that makes sense.
Additionally, our landlord just informed me that actually all of the other flex parking is ours. So there's only 8 dedicated spaces to the apartments, which are clearly labeled by apartment number, and all the other flexible space is associated to us. So it's actually higher than the numbers that I put there. But we'll have an extensive, we can have an extensive parking review, but parking, the parking numbers are essentially equal, particularly during peak times for both locations. And in fact, actually, one other comment is that the other location, I don't think they mentioned, that they're only in one of the buildings, and the other building is also empty still. And so at some point, there's going to be someone else there, and it will need parking from those 40. So they'll have that same problem in the future.
I can ask them about that. So the total number of spaces that you have on weekdays and during the day is how many?
28, I think. Is that 28? You're on mute, Sean, you're on mute.
28 at all times, 100% dedicated to us, and 40, so 52 minus 8 is what?
40.
Sorry. Yep, so 42. 40, there'll be 44. 42. Yeah, 42 parking spaces during nights and weekends.
Yeah.
Can't do math.
and then how many of those are employee spaces?
How many how many are employee spaces?
Yeah. Is that all for customer? Or
yeah, that's all for customers. We do the same thing. And so in Santa Rosa, in Sebastopol, we do off-site employee parking, so that all the parking is dedicated to customers. And we haven't identified exactly where we will do that yet, but there are options for us to encourage employees to park within a few blocks radius if necessary.
Where would that be, and how would they get to your store? Because it's just a little dangerous to walk it. There aren't sidewalks and things like that.
Yeah, well, there's a few right behind us. There's the car wash and that other plaza there, and they have plenty of parking there. And there's a few other options literally right around the corner, where we can potentially negotiate 2 or 3 spots to ensure that we have employee parking access.
Okay.
I just want to jump in here real quick and say I just did a quick calculation at 4,350 square feet, and at a parking ratio of 1 space per 300 square feet, you're looking at a total city requirement of about 15 spaces.
Thanks, Cameron. Someone can do math faster than me.
Logan?
I'm trying to look at.
And 3 ADA spots that we're not including in all of this is the other. So we have 28 plus 14 is 42 plus 3 ADA spots. So those are additional to that.
Okay. Yes. So the car wash does have a back entrance there. Yeah. Just having employees walk on the highway is.
Yeah.
Not ideal, but you'll figure it out.
Well, there is a so and there's public transit just a few hundred feet away with the bus stop as well.
Yeah, no, I know that. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Logan, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Oh, Jeff Walter, if we had just curious, if we had a delivery only, would that prohibit people picking up their orders at the delivery only? Does that make it a storefront if someone just picked up their order?
If it's delivery only, it would be considered a non-storefront operation, and customers would not be coming to the site.
And then just expanding, so right now you're not going to be using the entire site. You're going to use a section of it is kind of the idea, and then potentially expanding into the kitchens and the rest of it later on.
Yeah, Eric, go ahead. Yes.
Not 100% sure. We're going to remodel the whole site. It's a little bit larger than we expect that we need. We want to dive in. We want to dive into the community's needs and see what we should do with the excessive amount of space that we have. Like I said, that the back half is a kitchen, which it's unfortunately not a kitchen we can just turn and give to a nonprofit or give to the community. It's a kitchen that needs a lot of work. So we haven't quite dug into the numbers there and what's necessary to either keep the kitchen or get rid of it. But the building itself, the parking lot, it's more than is necessary. But unfortunately, we don't have all the options in the world for locations. What we spoke to Dave Jefferson at the other location, and from our perspective, that site was too large, too expensive, too much, and wouldn't leave much for us to give back to the community or really put us at risk at becoming a profitable business. It's just too much. So this site is smaller, it's easier to handle, but still, and frankly, we think it's too big, and we haven't figured out yet how to program the whole thing.
There's deep need for a community kitchen too. Okay, great. Do we have any additional questions? No? All right. Thank you so much, Spark. Do we have any lingering questions from council for Justice Grown either? I have a question that's come up from me for them. If we could get. So thank you, Spark. I appreciate your time and for coming on with us and for all your time you've put into this effort. I know it's been a rigorous process. We're finally at the end, so that's at least appreciative, or hopefully.
Thank you all. We
appreciate it, and thank you so much for your time.
That was great.
So I have a question just for Justice Grown. I have a question on the space. So whoever would be best to kind of talk about, I can just state what my question is, and then whoever is going to answer it can raise their hand. My question is basically for the whole space. Is it true that there's another, because it was kind of addressed here that there may be another business that's coming in. Do you have that whole space there, or is it just are you doing one side there and then the rest of it's not going to be yours and it's going to remain as it is, or kind of what's the plan with the overall space? My question for Justice Crown. Seeing John L. and Barry Wood. So if we can have Spark go, and then John L. and Barry Wood brought into the chat here.
For some reason, it's only letting me put people out of the meeting. It won't let me remove them as panelists.
It's weird. It was allowing that before.
I see
We're
them
gonna want them
now.
to stay. Yeah, John and Barry. Well, then I guess keep them on. I guess I don't know. But we're gonna need to add people for public comment. We're always able to kind of switch that. We've been able to do it in the past.
Well, Mr. Chair, can we ask David that? Isn't it a novelty sales store or something on that next to Staples?
No, that site has been historically restaurants. It wasn't Casino Chachas, but it was MoMA, Mondo's, and then it was the Wine Annex and the Community Cafe. So the site's been restaurants for a long time. The site on First Street, West Knapp Street. I don't remember it being retail.
Well, closer to Staples, I think there's a big building there. I don't
There's
know.
the muffler shop, and then there's the chicken car wash in the back there. And then it's Police Ghost, muffler shop, chicken car wash in the back, Staples. So yeah, so there's on the parcel that you guys have. Mark says you're referring to Sonoma promotional products.
Yeah. Is that it? I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, so the West Napa Street leasing plan, and so I'm just kind of wondering. Who wants to answer from Justice Crown?
I would like to answer.
Thanks.
Can you guys hear me? Because I can't see me on the screen again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Turn on your camera.
Is my camera? I'm the second least technical behind Ken, but I don't see an option for a camera.
Something's going on with the technology tonight, Mayor Harvey. My apologies. We're not changing any settings between.
It's all a process. This is a year of it's all a process, and we'll all get through it. And so I appreciate all of the hard work to make these meetings happen that you put in. And so no worries. John, it's okay. We'll take the audio for now, and I'll imagine you saying this.
Very good. We are in discussion with the person who presently owns the property about what to do with the other.
Yeah, he just cut out.
We've lost John. You cut out.
I'm back, I think. Am I back with you?
You're back with us.
All right. So the decision has not been made what to do with the other piece of the property. We are talking to the owner about the possibility we develop that as a community center that we would use on off hours to sort of complement what we're doing. We're also talking about if we put it to a business use, leasing to a business that would be very low parking, whether that's an office that didn't have retail, but maybe something with complementary hours. So that is a possibility too. But as I said, we might just take the whole property because we have the ability to go excess parking behind. We have street parking behind our parcel there, is my understanding. So we could have spillover, which would alleviate some of the pressure. And curbside, because we have access to the curbside pickup, that also helps a lot. We have that right now in our Pennsylvania dispensary, and we can do high volume safely in COVID time. And it really solves a lot of parking problems. So between the two properties, ours is obviously better suited for curbside. I don't know that it's feasible on the other one at all. So that takes some of our parking pressure off. But, the difference between 43 and 28 spots is significant when you're talking about, 50 to 100 customers an hour. One is sort of in the sweet spot, one's not. I respect their point that during nights and weekends, they will be able to be up near 40, but there are parts of the day where they won't.
Are you planning on remodeling 875 as well, or just 865?
No, the whole development, the whole parcel is being redeveloped. 865 is the address, and Siobhan showed you the renderings.
Yeah. Okay, good. So it's the whole parcel.
Yeah.
So some of it may just be until you figure.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, that promotional, whatever it is immediately adjacent to those buildings on the east side.
Oh, there it is. I have another question. The community benefits package is $1 million over 5 years.
Correct.
What happens at the end of the 5 years?
Well, we have a long history and a documented history of action in that regard. We are a social justice cannabis company that has historically been very generous with our community and our community partners. And we will be obviously more integrated at that point. And we're not just going to, walk away from the community. We too, I heard a point that, that they're local and that they're going to use local contractors and it's going to give back to the economy. Obviously, we are too. We're going to use local contractors. We're going to hire local people. And we too are going to be getting the same multiplier and the same injection of commerce into the local community. And it will continue even after the 5 years.
Thank you, John. If there's no other questions of council for either Spark or Justice Crone, we will go ahead and move
Mayor
to
Harvey.
public comment.
Mayor
Yes.
Harvey, can I just, before we jump to public comment, just want to let the city clerk know that got an email from Siobhan Brady. She's having trouble getting back in the meeting, unable to rejoin the meeting is the message she's getting. So again, she might want to jump in via phone, but I wanted to let our clerk know that as we go out to public comment.
It's tough with all these people and the big juggle of pulling 5 out and 10 out and bringing them in, and it's a lot. So
Yeah,
we're
Mr. Mayor,
working it.
Mr.
Yes,
Mayor,
David.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just jump in, I do want to make a point. I think it's a big point, at least for me anyway. The materials that we got from Justice Grown talk about the $1 million proceeds over the course of 4 years in writing. Tonight, we've heard them say 5 years. So I want to make sure that we're understanding that. That's all.
I'd like to apologize if I got it wrong. No one's trying to pull a fast one. Whatever we committed to, you know, it wasn't our proposal originally. It was the competitor's proposal that we said we'd match. If they said 5 years, it's 5 years. If they said 4 years, it's 4 years. It does make a difference. It's going to cut into profitability, but I think, you know, what is in writing is what we're going to do. So if I screwed it up, I apologize. We hadn't intended to walk it back.
And if I can make a comment about the contribution, financial contribution that the proposers are making, the way that we've done this with the other cities we represent is that if the city adopts a tax that's uniformly applicable to cannabis businesses, such as a % of gross receipts tax, like the one that's on the ballot in November, for a retail operation, the council has the power to impose up to a 4% of gross receipts tax, not profit, not net profit, but gross receipts. That if a proposer has made a commitment to contribute a certain sum of money, that is typically treated as a credit against that tax. So if the tax were to yield, for example, a $300,000 tax in a given year, and Justice Grown's proposal was a $200,000 a year commitment, although they would still have to pay the full $300,000, $200,000 they paid as part of their commitment fee would be a credit against that $300,000 tax liability.
That is not our understanding, you know, of what we were trying to do. We were trying to say that we want to make a commitment to Sonoma above and beyond our otherwise obligation. I think what we would do is invite a discussion with the town if the thing passes, and hopefully, if we were fortunate enough to be selected, have a conversation about the tax, because it would make it hard for us to operate if you guys maxed the tax and we made our commitment. But we're not trying to count the taxes we pay as the charitable commitment. We're talking about a charitable commitment.
Okay, good. Thank you for the clarification. That's very important to know.
Further questions from staff or council? Great, let's bring it out to public comment. So this time, raise your hand if you would like to make a public comment. If you are dialing in, you can dial *9 on your phone, and we'll hear your comment. And I've got one here. We've got a 707-935-8693. And you are still muted, but you are on with the Sonoma City Council.
Hi,
We can hear you now.
Josette. Can you hear me? Josette Rose-Eicher, 1110 Loma Court. I am wondering where we will be with either of the applicants at the time of the November election. In talking with people and being on Nextdoor, I find that lots and lots are totally unaware of what the council has done on cannabis so far. I see potential for this ballot measure to pass. If it does, what does that mean for the operator you select? How is the city planning to let voters know that what you have in place is better for Sonoma than the ballot measure? Or is there any real possibility that a dispensary can be up and running before the November election? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Josette. And we'll move on to Ivan Escobar. Ivan, you're on Sonoma City Council.
Hello, I am currently employed with Spark, and I think it'll be the best fit for the dispensary because
it's not only gonna be creating more jobs for the community. And I work here at the farm, and they gave us the opportunity, like us being like Hispanics, to be learning and like becoming better person ourselves. And I think that's something like the community would appreciate, and like not just because they're employing just like Latinos, but we also have all races. And so I think that being Spark in Sonoma, best choice, because we're local and we cultivate here locally. And yep, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate you coming on with us. And next we have a 293 number. 293. You're on Sonoma City.
Hi, my name is Patricia. I am also an employee of Spark. I work at the farm, and like Ivan said, we got the opportunity to work there. And being there is allowing us to give back to our community. We are local, so we are cultivating and also giving back to our community. I believe if we were to get the spot over in, that we are trying to get, that would bring a lot more a lot more jobs for the locals, as well as, you know, more money into the community. It's not just about, you know, our company, it is also about our community. Yes, so definitely something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carol Perano. I apologize if I first.
No, that's fine. My name is Carol Proano. I'm actually new to the community, just moved, and I live on Studley Street. So this is all very new to me. My concern with the Justice Grown proposal to use the Studley Street as overflow parking is problematic. It's basically a residential street, and if you have that increased traffic or people parking back there, that's not something that I would support at all. Thank you.
Carol. Anyone else rising for public comment? Yeah. Well, John, you can't do public comment because you're one of the presenters. But we can allow you to address comments when we come back. Do you have any written public comment, Latanya?
No, Mayor Harvey, we do not.
All right. So interesting. You never know what's going to be hot button issues and what's not. All right. So we'll bring it back to the council. I'll close public comment. Didn't do a starting clap, but we'll do a finishing one. We'll bring it back to council for discussion. And if not, should we allow Justice Grown to address the comment there? I think John wants to do that. We can bring them on later. So if there's comments that we've got from council.
I have, Logan, could someone answer Mr. Mayor, sorry. Could someone answer Josette's question about what happens to the selected vendor if the ballot measure passes?
I think if we could have, honestly, if we could have one member of Spark and one member of Justice Grown that could come on and kind of answer questions. And so we've got Mr. Pearson, I think that's good. And then one other member from Justice Grown to come on. So if we have questions, they can refer. If they really can't answer it, then we can bring their specified rep. But if we could keep it to two, I think that would be ideal because it'll just be a little faster.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, David here. Just I won't be able to answer that for each of the two proposers, but part of Josette's question was regarding the being able to open up a store before the election. I think the answer to that is no, because the proposal that you select tonight will need to go through the land use process of the Planning Commission, and it would need to put an application together for us to review it as staff, do the environmental that goes along with that, and then tee it up for a public hearing. That's not going to happen before November. There's a few things in life that I can predict. That's probably going to be one of them. On the second part of the parking off-site on Studley, as you know, our municipal code requires a certain amount of off-street parking, and with it being a public street, we don't sit there and dedicate spaces for a business on a public thoroughfare. Hopefully that provides some help.
Mayor Harvey, just one other thing to respond to the public comment by Josette in terms of information. While the city is not able to advocate for any of the measures that the city council has placed on, but it can provide public information, factual public information. So the state of the city's efforts, the state that the city may have selected an applicant and the side of that applicant, that is all part of the public information that we would be putting out to the public as they make their decisions. So just a piece of information. Thank you.
I have a question on that ballot measure piece. If that does pass, you're going to be basically sort of like you've got principally permitted cannabis projects going through, and we've had people go through a really long process, and we're expecting fee recoupment. We go through final permitting. I mean, how are we going to deal with that? Could they just go and reapply through that permitted process, and then the city's getting the cost?
Let me take a stab at answering a couple of these questions. They're complicated. If the council were to select one of these proposers tonight, we would then engage in a discussion with them to enter into a contract, because our ordinance requires that an agreement be fashioned to address the issue of community benefits and next steps. And that agreement would lay out the steps they must take, i.e. going through the land use process, et cetera, to get a commercial cannabis business permit at the end of the day. That's the permit that will allow them to operate. They would, by contract, agree to that process. And if in the intervening time after the agreement was signed, the November election occurred, they would still be obligated to go through that process. And in my view, if once they get the commercial cannabis business permit, that would be entirely consistent with what the initiative provides. The initiative provides, however, that no land use process is really required. And that would mean potentially that the competitor who did not get selected tonight could attempt to locate on a different parcel and start an operation of its own without going through the process. The initiative has a very interesting section in it. It's section 7 that says that the council is empowered to amend the initiative measure without the vote of the people in ways that promote its purposes. At the very beginning of the initiative, it has very lengthy and rather eloquent discussion of what its purposes are. And one of them that comes to my mind is to make sure that the establishment of cannabis operators is controlled and provides for the safety of the community and is regulated. I think there's a strong argument that the council could amend the initiative in a way that looked very much like the regulatory ordinance that it passed last year, to essentially create the same system that is in place now, that is being followed now, even though the initiative were passed. We've got a long ways to go before we need to address these issues.
We don't need to get super deep in the weeds on that. I apologize for asking such a process.
It's complicated. It truly is. And there's just no question about it. We have not really tested these issues yet. But we're hopeful that with a proper distribution of information about its impacts, that it will not end up supplanting or causing difficulties and conflict with the council's ordinance that's adopted last year.
Great. All right. Comments from council.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the applicants tonight. They've invested obviously a tremendous amount of time and money in this process. Both applicants are incredibly strong, and it is, that's sort of why I think we were talking last time about wishing we could have two, because both applicants are so strong. And also I think both applicants have real local ties. It makes it a very difficult decision. I just wanted to also, thank the council and the staff for this whole process. I think we're, 2 years in here on this. That is, the pace that this has gone. It's a really long process. Anyway, I won't belabor it. I think I support, I could support either, but I support Justice Grown a little bit more. One, because of the commitment of the $1 million to the community in excess of the tax, and two, it has relevance to me that it was supported by Ken and Jewel, and that they have been advocates of legalizing marijuana in Sonoma for at least 2 decades. Just tireless advocacy for that. And I, trust their judgment on the vendor that they selected. That being said, Spark is obviously a great business, and Eric has been present at all of the things, from the very beginning. So I'm looking forward to hearing what other people are thinking.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go next. This has been a big project. I respect my council members and their decisions that they made getting here. I always wanted to see a dispensary outside the city limits, but I met with Ken Brown. I talked to Jewel about this, and I've talked to the other different people that were involved in this process when we first started. And looking at it, this is something that's going to change Sonoma for a long time. It's a big decision. As you know, I only have about 2 months left on the council, but I've served for 8 years, and I know that Ken Brown has served this community well, and I will be supporting justice, because I believe that having Ken Brown involved in this, and I love the name change that to have Jewel in this, because this is something that I know in my 16 years of watching council and being on the council for 8 years, this is very important. I think Spark did a great job. I think that the county of Sonoma, there's a lot of more opportunities here, and unfortunately in Sonoma there is going to be one. I mean, I've always supported just one. Hopefully the county, there'll be other opportunities, but that's how my decision is. And I just want to thank everyone who's been involved in this. And the process won't finish tonight, of course, because there's a lot more, with the November ballot issue coming up, different things, but that's how I stand. So thank you.
Thank you, David.
Can I give my comment?
You may, yes.
Thank you. This is a very exciting point to get to. I think the first opportunity I had to talk about cannabis on the city council was probably 2015. Well before we sort of end up with enough votes to even get this process moving forward. And there's been so much hard work that has come to this point. First, it was a lot of hard work by staff, putting together all of our community meetings and educating ourselves and sort of setting ourselves up to understand this issue even better, so that we can get into this process and then get to see who's interested in being in Sonoma, and finally down to the final two. In reflection, looking at our process, I feel that the way that it ended up, it actually preferred and created a bias towards national businesses. We saw that with our finalists, where 3 out of 4 ended up being national companies. And I think that it was set up in a way that new small businesses or young businesses or just businesses that haven't gotten the capital of some of the businesses we've seen, or sort of level of sophistication. They just weren't even able to have a seat at the table. And I don't think that was necessarily a good thing. But we have gotten to this point, and I agree that the two businesses that we are considering tonight are outstanding businesses. I think that both will be successful if either one was picked. But as reviewing all of the application materials and presentations and the presentations tonight and the locations, and I'll add that, community benefits, I've always thought to be an odd thing to be a part of this process, because my interest has always been just having a cannabis business in Sonoma, because it's something that is helpful to people that live here, and just having a successful business that follows the rules and operates in a way that minimizes impacts on its neighbors is a success to me. So all of the other sprinkles on top isn't particularly impactful to me. I'm most concerned that we have a successful business. And, the model of basically not taking a profit for the sake of your community benefits for several years, kind of reminds me of Amazon, actually, because it's something where you have either enough capital, whether it's venture or because you're a national network and you're just big enough to do it. It's just something that small businesses can't do. So I don't really find that to be necessarily something that's, should tip the equation here. I will be supporting Spark tonight, and the distinguishments between the two is that I do value that, while neither of these businesses grew out of Sonoma because it couldn't, because it wasn't legal here, that Spark, started in San Francisco and has had a presence in Sonoma County for a long time now, and they've done a great job. Back when we did our tours at the beginning of this, I went to all of them, and Spark was the only one where the manager met me and sort of gave me a really thoughtful tour of everything, and I was just impressed by how professional everything was, and just the clean aesthetic, and just visually it seemed like something that would fit in well in Sonoma. But also because I find the connections with the organizations that have been selected for the community benefits, it's meaningful to me that there are so many letters in support, particularly from the organizations that have been identified, and that there has been already groundwork laid. And in many cases, since operations have been in Sonoma Valley with the cultivation project, that it's sort of a continuation of something that was real, that has existed. So that part is meaningful to me. And when I look at our businesses in town, and Sonoma's always favored its local businesses, and even when the city council before my time adopted the formula store ordinance about chain stores and chain restaurants, there was a statement that was made that these national companies have a competitive advantage, and that's why when they move in, they tend to squish everything that's small. And so a judgment was made to sort of clear space so that we could have our small businesses. And so here, looking at between a national business that would have its first Sonoma County store, it does have a small cultivation operation in Santa Rosa, versus a Bay Area business that does not have a national presence, that has been in Sonoma County, and it seems like a natural extension of what it's done. I just find that to be in line with the character of our local businesses generally, and I think it'd be a great addition to our local business economy. So tonight I will be proudly supporting Spark.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Hundley. And Councilmember Agrimonti.
Well, I knew this was up. So thank you so much. I can't, first of all, possibly anyone that knows and has ever heard the word cannabis, I did not support a dispensary here in Sonoma, but I have evolved with the help of a lot of people, comments from, just different people, professionals, people here in Sonoma. And it just almost turned into ageism because I'm too old to even partake in cannabis, whether it's medicinal or other. So I even had to get angry and say, look, I was raised in the 60s in San Francisco. Police, this is nothing. So it's just kind of interesting. Each one of these, Justice Grown and Spark, have just really, really impressed me an awful lot. And I know that there are ties to the community, but something about Spark has drawn me to it. And that's why I feel that I would like to support Spark. And this is from a non-believer.
Wow. Okay. Falls to me. Jeez. I was hoping Madeline was going to save me there from a difficult decision. I think both of these projects have great merit. Obviously, I think, frankly, I want to thank everybody that applied and went through this process. We had a lot of great applicants. Coastal, Lighthouse, Spark, and Justice Grown have all been great contributors and put forth great ideas. And frankly, anybody's going to really benefit this town. And I think that the development of a commercial cannabis site in the city of Sonoma is needed and will definitely be successful. There's a variety of considerations, and I think that the point is here to create somebody who's going to be a long-term and long-lasting business partner, and somebody who's going to be able to stay in town for a long period of time. And the other question is site and site improvements and what is going to look and feel and work right. For me, I have some concerns on the side of Justice Grown with $1 million commitment over 4 years, plus being able to afford the tax, plus a major redevelopment of a huge site. I have some concerns around solvency there. It just seems like a lot of cash outlay and a big expectation of a lot of money coming back, and I'm not sure that it's going to be realized. Locally, people are generally able to get cannabis in Sonoma fairly readily, and I think that there's the tourist business for sure, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. The other piece for me is the direct ties and how well people are ingrained in our community. And I think that obviously with the Ken Brown and Joel Matheson, there's a deep community tie there. But for me, there's deeper ties on the side of Spark. I know they're already working with La Luz and directly hiring people through their organization. They're already kind of invested in this community in a lot of different ways. And they've opened a number of retail operations already in Sonoma County. They have a couple farms here already. The cannabis is going to be local. The hiring is going to be local. The understanding is going to be local. And I think that long term, they've got a better structure for their business, which I think is really important. And, Ken has obviously been a long-term advocate for cannabis in the city of Sonoma for a very, very long time, and that's extremely important. But at the same time, Eric Pearson's been working in this community for a long time as well, and has been a part of organizations in the Valley too. And I think that should be recognized as well. For me, I think at the end of the day, my selection would be Spark. That would be the vote that I would choose. I think the longevity of that business is going to be good. And this is why, frankly, I pushed for when we were doing the final authorization of this ordinance to try to get 2 cannabis dispensaries, because I knew we'd come to this place where there were 2 very, very good options, and neither one was going to be neither one was one that we wanted to throw away. And I think, Justice Grown is high.
Uh-oh.
And I would love to see them. I think I don't know if I'm jerking. Okay. So my internet connection got a little unstable there. So for me, my choice would be Spark. And that's who I would vote for. So I guess we'll have a motion then. So I move to select Spark. Is that what I see Jeff jumping in?
Yes, please include in your motion directing staff to come back with the appropriate resolution with conditions.
Somebody want to make the motion for me?
I would like to make a motion to direct staff to prepare a resolution awarding Spark. What is it? The
conditional certificate.
A conditional certificate.
I'll second.
All right. Do we have a roll call vote?
Glitchy tonight.
She still there.
Aye.
Councilmember Agrimonti,
Aye.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hundley,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much to both applicants. We appreciate your time. We appreciate the money you spent on this. We appreciate all of your efforts to bring this to our town, and we wish you the best in your business endeavors and the best end of 2020 that you can have. This has been a rough one for everybody, so great. Moving on to item 6.1, correct? Or no, we were going to do item 5.7 because it was pulled from the calendar. Do we want to take a break or?
No, well, if council wants to, that's fine. Mayor Harvey, I just want to let you know that there's going to be no rotating power outages for tonight. So the energy supply is enough to take care of the requirements. So we are out of the woods on that for tonight, though tomorrow will be another delicate dance. So.
I'm here till 3. Oh, excuse me, sorry.
Great. All right. So, so we're moving on to item 5.7. So, authorize city manager to issue a request for a proposal for professional services for the city manager recruitment.
Great. Mayor Harvey, just briefly. So as council is aware, I announced my retirement at the end of December coming up here. And so typically at council, there's a whole process when you go through to and different policy options and direction council can decide in terms of what the process you want to use for the hiring of a manager, including creating a candidate profile, et cetera, and what process you want to use. That conversation, the city attorney and I have talked about, and our plan was to bring that back to you in early September. The action in front of you tonight is basically just trying to kickstart the process by having a basic request for proposal. This is modeled after a couple of other cities, including what was done about 4 years ago. And so the process would be to collect proposals, and then the council can decide with looking at those proposals from an executive recruiter, what process do you want to use? Again, there is no commitment to use any of these proposals, but it is a typical process to hire someone to help you do the recruitment that specializes in these areas. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions of Councilmember Harrington pull the item.
All right, Councilmember Harrington, you pulled this item from the consent calendar, so I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, I don't have questions. I have a comment. I don't know if you want to take it out to the public and then.
Do you have questions? Nope. Bring it out to public comment. Seeing no one rise, give a little bit of time. Seeing no one rise, we'll bring it back to council.
So my thought on it was it's my preference to talk about doing an RFP at the same time as a discussion about you know, what a succession plan looks like and a more in-depth discussion. And before we spend the money to draft the RFP and send it out and all that, I'd rather have the council discussion about it. That's my preference.
So this is clearly this is council, you know, pleasure of the council. The RFP itself is what's drafted here. It's a simple 2-page, basically used information that other cities have had. So, and again, my thought process was, because really to get responses back from recruiters, it's going to take about 3 weeks. And again, council, you all can decide what timeline and process you want to use, especially with the election and potentially new council members. And so all that timeline is completely in your control as we lay out the process. This was just trying to kickstart one piece of it so that you would have proposals, and then you can decide kind of how you want to move forward. But if you want to wait and have that broader conversation first, that is your prerogative as well. So happy to hear direction of the council.
David?
Yeah, and I agree with Councilmember Harrington. A month before I took the oath of City Council 8 years ago, I remember Joanne Sanders was on her last month of her term, and that's when Carol Giovanotto got appointed into the city manager. And then, you know, I sat through the second one when Carol left, and then we blessed with Kathy Caparola, who done a great job. And thank you for all the work. And there'll be a lot of time to say accolades, but I do want public to know that I'm very proud of the work that our city manager has done. But looking at this process and kind of going through it the third time, I think it's very important for the council to meet and see kind of, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I can't really remember exactly how we did it last time and how Joanne Sanders, during her mayor and her last year, how that all went. So I would like to see the council get together and discuss this before we move on with anything at this point. Thank you.
Great. For my part, I haven't been through this process before, frankly. So that's kind of, you know, that's where that is. I do think that putting out an RFP is a good idea to get the process started, because eventually we are going to have to put out an RFP. And so just with the kind of timeline and Kathy transitioning at the end of this year, I just think that, you know, getting that piece started, and then we can talk about succession planning as that's going on. It doesn't seem to be a big stretch to do that for me. But if there's a desire from the majority of council to do things a different way, I'm supportive. Anybody else have comments?
No, I think I agree. I know Carol Giovanotto handled the last one. It was smooth and perfect. And I agree with what you said about the RFP, but it'd be nice to just know maybe there's another strategy or another way to look at it. It may end up to be the same, but it would be nice if the council had if the council had, I guess, some comments regarding this.
Okay. I'm seeing no other comments unless Rachel wants to chime in.
Nope, no comments.
Okay. Do we have a motion on this? Or
You should go to the public.
we just did public comment?
Oh, you did? Okay.
I don't really know what the motion would be.
So I think if the council really wants, what I guess I believe the direction at this point would be to basically, instead of taking the return with a conversation with council probably at the first meeting in September about kind of full process and options, including an RFP could be as part of that. Because that's what I'm hearing, council wants to kind of have a conversation before kind of trying to move some of the critical path pieces forward in parallel. And that is the prerogative of the council. So instead of, you would not be authorizing, you would just basically be directing it, return this with kind of a broader process conversation for the council.
Yeah, I think, and that requires a motion.
No, it's council direction.
I'm looking at Jeff.
Fine. Either one's fine. If you think it needs clarity and crispness and certainty, then a motion would be excellent. Otherwise, if it seems like the direction's clear and the majority of council is nodding in their with consent in their minds, then that's fine.
All right, we'll bring this back on the 1st or the 7th or whatever our first meeting in September is.
So just be clear, what staff will bring back is kind of a broader process, timeline options, and for council to consider. Again, there are some things that we can do in open session, some things in closed session, but we'll articulate those items, including the RFP, and then you can decide your timing moving forward.
Great.
Thank you.
So we'll move to item 6.1, discussion, inclusion, possible action to introduce, waive reading, and adopt the urgency ordinance authorizing administrative enforcement of COVID-19 public health orders. City manager.
Great. Mayor Harvey, members of the council, let me give a brief overview. So in front of you tonight is an urgency ordinance for you to consider that would provide an ability for staff, both code enforcement and police, to do administrative citations, or think of it as fines, parking tickets, that type of thing. It's basically a fine, administrative citations for violations of the public health order. Currently, the way the regulations are, code enforcement is unable to do enforcement. Only the police can do these enforcements because it is classified as a misdemeanor currently. You can do fines and misdemeanors, but again, that's kind of, that process has been a little clunkier. So there's been conversations with the city managers and other folks in the county about creating some kind of a citation process. And so Sonoma County actually prepared in cohort with the city attorneys and John Abachi, who, if he's not brought forward, if Rebecca could bring him forward with the city attorney's office, has been involved in these conversations. Thank you, John. There's John. So John was on the team that helped create the countywide ordinance. And the county did approve that ordinance about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that now. And the ordinance basically creates an administrative citation process. The citations for an individual violating the public health orders are $100. That's a max per time. And there's no gradated scale. It's just $100 max. So you could do $25 and then $50 and then $100, or you could just do $100 and then $100 and then $100. That's how it is for residential, not for residential, excuse me, for individual. And then the ordinance the county approved for commercial sets a threshold for the maximum for the first is $1,000. The maximum for the second offense is $5,000. And the max for the third offense is $10,000. So again, that is the max. The ordinance is written in a way that there is flexibility where code enforcement or police, if there is a business and that there is the need to cite, they could do $100 and then $200 and then $300. So the thresholds really create a breadth of options for code enforcement or police, I think partly because of the range of public health issues that could occur, and really trying to give some flexibility based on the nuances and the different types of, we've had so many different orders, right? And every situation and circumstance is a little different. So as staff, we do believe that a tool in these administrative citations would be helpful. Some of the cities have made a determination that they can just use the county's ordinance and use that and not do their own urgency ordinance. Other cities have made a determination that they need to do their own ordinance, which is a guidance that our city attorney's office has had. Santa Rosa is, for example, is basically mirroring very similar to the county in terms of the commercial fines and citations. Cotati is similar, but they are maxing the amount that they're going to charge to commercial entities at $1,000. So you have choice here. As staff, we have talked a lot about this. And I think one thing that has led us to want to keep the thresholds or the ceiling the same as the county is a few things. One, the county's done a lot of PR on this already in the last 10 days, and that has been communicated out to businesses in the corporate and unincorporated. And as council knows, we are kind of one business community, right? And so if we have different citations, I think potentially could be confusing to businesses. So that is kind of one reason that there's already been public education, and I think it'll be less confusing if it's just the standard. Also, I think that I think having a higher threshold, I've heard this from someone where, you know, you had someone walked into a restaurant, not a restaurant, walked into a retail business in town and was just not really wearing the mask. And the business owner or business person said, you know, you really need to put the mask on. You can't just hold it, or I could be fined $10,000. And part of it is to give, I think, a little bit of a reality check and help the businesses. And maybe it pushes that back on, you know, kind of the government's making me do this, but it kind of creates some seriousness. And I am taking this serious, and here's what could happen. I guess the other point I would make to council is we as staff, we are careful with citations, and, you know, our goal is work with businesses, work with individuals, educate. But if we did have someone who was really recalcitrant or something very egregious, and this whole situation has changed and been so evolving, it just makes sense to me to have the most flexibility we want. Now, if we had a situation that we really were at a point where we felt as staff that we needed to fine a business $5,000 or $10,000, something in that magnitude, we would be having conversations with council, because odds are we probably may end up in some kind of litigation if we're at that point. Again, I think this will be rare, but I think for a variety of consistent reasons, it makes sense just to kind of follow the lead of the Board of Supervisors here. And again, we will happy to keep council informed about when we do these. And I think our overall culture of how we work with the business community is well kind of instilled with staff and code enforcement. So that is a brief summary, and be happy to answer any questions. And again, John Abachi has been the attorney lead. And John, I don't know if there's anything I haven't covered you think I should.
I think Kathy has covered everything well. If there are any questions, however, I'm happy to answer.
Where's the mayor? Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak. Is that all right?
Of course.
Okay. Thank you. So John, thank you so much. Kathy, thank you. And I think when you and I spoke, Kathy, that I personally viewed something happen in the Sign of the Bear. It wasn't violent, but it was totally inappropriate and rude. The woman had a bandana, she was holding it, and whomever was there said, please, you can't enter with holding the bandana, and the woman was angry and rude and left. So I feel so sorry for people who have to tell you as an adult, you have to wear a mask. So I feel sorry for them. So my question was, I like the $100 fine, but I get, and maybe I'm expanding this, Kathy, because $100, and then if they walk around, they come to visit town, or they live here and they don't have a mask again, is there a record of somebody getting charged with $100 so we know that this person is a repeat offender and has a total disrespect for us? That was my question number one, John.
The question being, can the non-commercial violation be greater than $100?
No, I think 100 is fine, but when you give them that citation and they offend again, hopefully they paid the 100, but they offend again, there should be a record of who has already offended and paid $100. So they can be charged again, and you know that this is the second time.
So the purpose of the ordinance is to allow the city to administer the administrative fines process on the basis of the city's own code. So just as a first violation of a municipal code ordinance would be taken through the administrative fine process, and that would be a first violation, then the second time it would come around, there would have been that record of the first violation.
Oh, good.
And go through the very same process. That is the purpose of the ordinance.
And Councilmember Gong, I just want to say that Bob Smith, our city prosecutor and code enforcement manager, also has joined us.
I saw
So
him.
some of those operational issues, I just want to make sure that Bob was recognized and he can answer as well.
Right. And I think now also going back to commercial, oh God, things are bad enough for them. If they can show that they've made, well, they can't, I don't know how they keep somebody out of their business who refuses, and then they probably have to shove them out the door. That's another breaking and different kind of a law. But what if they say, well, I guess they can't let someone in, but I'm not, this to me, $10,000 is onerous unless it's, I hate to use a health club, unless it's a health club, nobody's wearing masks, all of that. I mean, just a really terrible infraction. But up to 10,000 seems like.
Yeah, so 10,000 is the complete max. And again, there was a situation in Santa Rosa with Jordan, and John, you may know more of the specifics, but City of Santa Rosa had a business there that was not enforcing the public health orders, consistently not warned, educated, consistently not. At that point, there wasn't a citation process, and the county had to take them to court, as I understand. And John, so if you know more there, but because there wasn't that tool. So again, I don't see that we would be issuing $10,000 tickets, maybe ever. It is the max. But if we had a business that was just basically, we've told them, we've educated, and consistently doing it again, I don't think you're going up to 10. You're probably you could even start with 500 or 250. So these thresholds, they are ceilings. They are not so code enforcement, and Bob, if you want to speak, I mean, there's a lot of judgment code enforcement does in the field and kind of trying to get a sense of the individual, the circumstance. So, but if you have someone who, it's kind of similar like, vacation rentals, and they've been told before, they've been told again, they continue to rent their house out. They've been fined before. This is the third or fourth time that they've been doing this, then you maybe need to, have something that is a little steeper. So Bob, I don't know if you want to.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, this ordinance one would be helpful because the city is receiving referrals from the county code enforcement office about complaints that they are receiving. They have a hotline set up, so anybody anywhere in the county can call. And if the complaining party is within an incorporated area, that complaint will get referred to a contact in the city. Now, whether the city can do anything about it, that's a different question, but the county will not come into the city and issue a citation. So this gives us a really straightforward tool to issue citations if need be. And we've already received a number of complaints from the county. Some of them are in the city limits, and we've explained to county code enforcement that just because it's called the Sonoma Mission Inn doesn't mean it's in the city of Sonoma. So, but what we do, businesses, we will go to the business and we will inform them of the nature of the complaint. We'll offer them, we have some documentation to tell them what the law is, and we'll warn them. And usually, honestly, that's enough. If a business continued down a path that we were going to give them a citation, I could see if it was extreme enough, we would issue a citation for $1,000. But if the conduct continued, we'd probably move it to a different process. We'd move it to the notice and order where there's actually a hearing, and you can rack up fines that way. Yeah, so that's more of a due process in my mind, and less draconian than saying, here's a ticket, call this 800 number and just send your check in for 10,000. But there would have to be a pretty egregious ongoing conduct for us to issue a citation. Honestly, we go around weekly or daily sometimes. Construction sites are an issue, and they're mostly coming around. We stop in and talk to the superintendent, and usually after they say, well, you know how construction guys are, we explain to them, well, they can be any way they want to, as long as they're more than 6 feet apart or they're outside the city limits. And they comply. Most businesses comply. For the most part, honestly, as we monitor this, the businesses in Sonoma seem to be coming in line, as is the general population. Now, weekends, it's not always the same. I know one restaurant, high-end restaurant in town is closed on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, because they don't want any more confrontations with tourists over masks. So they've just shut down. And so that's what we would do. We'd probably alter our schedules a little bit. I'm working with Kathy on that to try to send some people out to kind of audit how the evenings are going on weekends, just to make sure. And primarily it's bars, right? If there's alcohol there, there's a good chance that somebody's encouraged not to maintain social distancing. They don't call it demon rum for a reason.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Matt. Do we have other questions on this topic? Nope. Seeing none, I'll bring it out to public comment. And public comment is open. Do you have any written comments on this?
No, Mayor Harvey, we don't.
See nobody raising their hands. I'll go ahead and bring it back to the council. I see Councilmember Cook with his finger up. Start with you, sir.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start it out. We are in unprecedented times. And, I had a discussion with the city manager this afternoon, and looking at what the county's doing and looking at the fact that the city of Sonoma, the size that we are, we're surrounded by the unincorporated areas, to adopt their rules would be good. Because that way there wouldn't be any confusion. So I will be supporting this tonight, where we would adopt what the city staff has recommended. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cook.
I'll go.
All right, Vice Mayor Hundley.
So part of me on the individual side, I think there is a benefit from having an escalation on that side. Like traditionally, street maximums are 100, 200, 500. But in this case, I think that the best path would be the simplest path, which would be to go with exactly what the county has, which Councilmember Cook raises an excellent point, is that our area is surrounded by unincorporated areas, and it would just be easy that if anyone is in this general area, then it's the same thing. So that's what I would be supporting, and I'm happy to see that the county did this, because while most people think if you just remind them the right thing to do, they'll do it, but sometimes there's people that don't want to, and then you need something a little more firm. So I'm really happy that we have this option now.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilmember or Vice Mayor Hundley. Councilmember Harrington.
Oh, I support this.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I support this as well. Thank you for bringing it forward for all the same reasons. And, I would just note, for many of us, our children started school remotely today. It is very difficult, and everything we can do to make children able to go back to school and people to resume their lives, we should do it. So thank you very much.
All right. Councilmember Agrimonti, did you have additional comments?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Yeah, I support this as well. I think it's great. It's something that citizens of Sonoma have been asking for a while, is to have, there's a big concern around masks. We need to support our local businesses. And I think this council has done a really good job of expanding opportunities for businesses. And we're doing that again tonight. But at the same time, we need to be respectful of the fact that we are in the midst of a global pandemic, and having some amount of rules and more tools for our code enforcement to educate. I think especially with the tourist community that's here, it's really unfortunate to hear businesses shut down on the weekends because tourists can't comply. But we need to keep our community safe. That's our first priority, followed closely by, keeping our businesses in business. And so this is a way that protects both. I think it makes us the bad guy and allows, businesses kind of point at the city and point at the county as like, hey, this could really fall down on me if you don't just put the mask on. I agree with you, whatever, but you got to wear it. And I think that's going to be really, really helpful. And I want to commend and thank staff for bringing this forward, and also commend and thank staff for the great work they did. I walked around the plaza and having the stickers wear a mask and all of that all over the sidewalks. I think it's really, really good. It's at a place where people are going to feel comfortable. They're feeling like there's an education, and then following that up with some code enforcement and some additional tools is going to be a really beneficial thing that's going to, help the community feel like we have their backs as well. So thank you. Do we have a motion?
So
Mr. Mayor,
moved.
this is an urgency ordinance, so the motion would require to introduce and adopt.
Okay.
Okay.
So moved.
Am I supposed to say something?
Want to introduce and adopt that, Madeline?
Yes, that's right. I want to introduce and adopt it.
Second.
All right. Good. Roll the.
Here, here.
Councilmember Harrington, Councilmember Agrimonti,
Aye.
Councilmember
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hundley,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yeah. I do just want
Thank you.
to say thank you. I do just want to say as we close this off, we're not looking to harm any businesses with a large fine. We will be going through slow steps and doing education before fines come in. And it's not our goal to be out there busting people's chops about this. We want you to be safe, and we want to handle this in an appropriate and respectful manner, and I appreciate his work there. We'll move on to item 7.2, discussion, consideration, and possible action to adopt a resolution that authorizes the city manager to create and implement a new reopening and recovery measures of temporary issuance of temporary use permits, encroachment permits, and/or license agreements without fee or payments to the city to allow the city's businesses to expand their operating spaces, utilizing the use of Depot Park and other city parks. City manager?
Yeah, great, Mayor Harvey and City Clerk, if you could promote Lisa Jansen, our Senior Management Analyst, Special Events Manager, who's been working on this issue. So as council knows, we've brought a variety of different things to you to talk about how do we support different businesses. And I will briefly say that there are a couple of business groups that have come forward and made some specific requirements that we didn't feel like we had authority from the council to try to embrace, and yet we thought it would be a good thing to do. So number one, Vintage House. As you know, our senior facility would like to be able to use part of Depot for some classes and some outdoor activities. But rather than charging Vintage House a regular parks rental rate to do that, again, as we try to support our seniors, the goal would be to allow those things to occur with no fee. And yet we didn't feel like as nonprofits, we had that authority. The other is there are some businesses in town, and this happens with a lot with we've focused on retail and restaurants, but we have some service organizations, the fitness organizations, yoga, Pilates, these places that frankly need outside space. What we've been doing is encouraging those folks to go to the school district or go to the Field of Dreams and use some of those spaces. And we will continue to do that. But there is a need and a desire to use some city park facilities as well. Again, just like we've done with the plaza, the goal is not to have neighborhood parks overwhelmed by businesses, but we think there can be a sweet spot where there can be some of these types of things that could happen in some of our parks. And then the other piece also is there are some service businesses such as a fitness organization that they can't operate their fitness business with inside, but they could put up some kind of a tent or take some parking spaces similar to what we've done with some of the retail, and therefore be able to allow their business to operate. And so we didn't feel that the prior direction and authority from council was clear on that. What this basically does is take similar model that we have for restaurants and retailers, but broaden it out for services we do need to add to the resolution. It talks about, number one, it talks about authorizing new opening recovery. It talks about city businesses. We need to add to this reso if council is supportive and nonprofits to expand their operating space. And I also think because a lot of these businesses are much more, you know, an individual yoga instructor, they're not as large businesses. We may want to basically figure out some kind of a streamlined process where maybe the level of insurance requirements, et cetera, is minimal, because again, they're teaching an exercise class in a park, and I think the overall risk is very minimal to the city. So if there's interest in that, I think we'd want to work with the subcommittee and really just try to see if we can make this simple and yet support another sector of our business community to hopefully financially stay alive and be able to support their families and work through these issues. So that was the intent. Lisa Jansen is hopefully been promoted with us, and that's the high level that I understand, and Lisa can answer any more detailed questions. And I know that some council members, I know Mayor Harvey and Vice Mayor Hundley, have also been approached by people since they've been on the subcommittee, and they may have more to offer. So with that, I'll answer any questions that the council or Lisa will.
Do you have questions of city staff?
None from me.
All right, great. We'll go ahead and bring it out to public comment. Seeing no one rise. Do we have any written public comment, Latonya?
No, Mayor Harvey, we don't.
Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and close public comment and then comments from council.
We have a comment.
Sure. Vice Mayor Hundley.
Thank you. I am in full support of this tonight. I'm really happy that Vintage House made the ask, and I especially love the idea that Depot Park was on the radar, because we've always wanted to figure out ways to use Depot Park more. And we actually have, other than the plaza, so many parks around town. And now that there's many reasons to need more outdoor space. I think all of our the parks are a perfect way to assist both nonprofit organizations and businesses that need to get some more space. So I'm excited to support this, and I certainly appreciate the council's support this far with all of these new things. And since Lisa's here, I just wanted to give a special thank you to Lisa Jansen, because she's a wizard with all of this. It's truly amazing.
All right, Councilmember Cook.
Yeah, it seems like I always start out saying we're in unprecedented times, but I also will be supporting this. I do understand that there's, as time goes on and depending on how long COVID restrictions and everything happens in the business and the nonprofit sector and in our community. But I'm always warned by people, you know, the rain's coming, probably sooner this year than most years. I wouldn't be surprised to see October being very rainy. So the old farmer saying, make hay while the sun is shining, is probably good here. I'm sure there'll be more of a discussion and as time goes on, but right now I'm very supportive of what the ad hoc committee's doing and staff and helping the business community. And as this does go on, I think we will be trying to decide what to do, you know, next spring, if we're still in this, which it looks like we possibly will be, and next summer. So I'll be supporting this, and thank you, Logan, and thank you, Rachel, for doing this work.
Thanks, David.
This is Madeline. So I would say, yes, I do support this. Thank you so much. Hey, it's my birthday. I thank you so much, Logan and Rachel. You know, it's amazing. You know, it's amazing how hard everybody is working. And it's very tough. You know, it's hard to imagine. Someone said that we should start writing a journal because somebody's going to want to see them sometime, because it's a historical time in our history. So go ahead and write your journal. I won't.
Thanks, Madeline. Councilmember Harrington.
Oh, I also obviously support this, and I just think, with the track being closed for all the work that's being done at the high school, the more spaces we can make available for people to get some recreation in and be outdoors, the better. So some of this I think is already happening, kind of off the record. So I think it's good to kind of give it our official approval.
Great. Yeah, I'm super excited to support this. Some of this came from, I had a conversation with Melanie Bagby, who's in Cloverdale, and she had said that they'd opened up parks for senior centers, that they were doing chair yoga and things like that up there. And so I called Priscilla Esser from the Vintage House and was like, would you be interested? Yes, put together a call with Lisa Jansen and Nick, as she does, and they got together and put this program. And so it's really just wonderful to see, Lisa, all the work that you've done here. It's been really, really fantastic to see that. And, it's been great to work with you, and the flexibility of staff has been wonderful. And so super supportive of this. And, from Priscilla's side, Vintage House is they have a lot of seniors that are looking for opportunities to get together, discussion groups or different classes that they have there. They have a whole plethora of classes that they offer. And so this time being socially distant and being away from friends and family and relatives starts to weigh on you. I think we're all feeling that. And so to provide some more opportunities for both recreation and exercise, to give businesses a chance to thrive and personal trainers, but also to provide that kind of mental benefit that comes with just social interaction. So really happy to support this and excited that the council supports as well. So that would be great.
Great. So Mayor Harvey, maybe just in terms of the resolution that's written, that's before council, a few places that if council is comfortable with a few maybe edits and clarification based on the conversation. One, in item number 1, it says city manager is authorized to implement new reopening recovery measures through the issuance of temporary use permits, encroachment permits, and or licensing procedures. And I'd like to say or other permit processes, because again, I think these processes that we're talking about could be more streamlined and simple for a basic and not the same level of insurance requirements. So other maybe streamlined permit process, and then also to allow the city's businesses and nonprofits, and that would take care of the Vintage House. So if council's comfortable, those were 2 edits that I would recommend. And if so, then it sounds like there's support to approve the resolution.
I'm comfortable with that.
With amendments.
Rachel, did you make a motion?
Motion to approve as amended.
All right.
Second.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I won.
Oh, good. That was staff night. If we can, yeah. This is our new sports. If we can have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Agrimonti,
Aye.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hundley,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes.
Thanks. The motion carries unanimously.
All right. Moving on to item 7.3, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve an unconditional commitment letter to Vice Mayor Hundley responding to a Brown Act violation claim set forth in her letter on July 20th, 2020. City Attorney Jeff Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rachel, are you intending to participate in this?
No, when I get a moment, I will make my recusal statement.
Okay, maybe this be the time to do that.
All right. As with last time, I will be recusing myself tonight because I was the one that submitted the letter that's in the packet pursuant to the whistleblower provisions of the Brown Act, and because one of the potential outcomes of that action would be litigation involving the city. I have a financial interest and thus have a conflict. So I will be recusing and not participating in this item.
Thank you. As my staff report indicated, Vice Mayor Hundley did submit to the council a July 20 letter in which she made claims that the council on June 18 violated the Brown Act in particular ways. The council has various options in front of it, one of which is to agree without concern of making an admission or having the agreement appear as evidence in a later trial, should a trial occur, that in fact it will not commit the violations that are alleged in Vice Mayor Hundley's letter. If it does that, as I mentioned, then the law provides that no litigation may be brought based upon the allegation of a Brown Act violation to which the letter pertains. In the staff packet before you is a proposed letter that commits the city to not violating the Brown Act in the ways that were alleged by Vice Mayor Hundley. She alleged that the city council met to give instructions to its labor negotiator or labor representative, and during the closed session made statements or took action that was beyond the scope of the permitted activities that were allowed under that particular provision of the Brown Act. Ms. Hundley also in her July 20 letter demanded that the city not conduct any closed sessions for a 12-month period unless the city manager, city attorney, or some other third party attended those closed sessions. The Brown Act does not require that, and the letter that's part of the packet respectfully indicates that the council is not going to be adhering to that demand and would not accede to her requirements or her request in that regard. That sums up my report. As I mentioned, if this council were to approve this letter, then litigation could not be brought based upon the alleged violations of the Brown Act specified in the letter. I'm open to answering any questions if there are any.
We have questions of Jeff.
How much money have we spent so far on legal on this?
I think somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000.
Thank you.
Other questions for city staff or for Jeff? All right, we'll open it up for public comment. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment on this item? No? Do we have any written comments on this item?
No, Mayor Harvey, we do not.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to council. Do you have council member comments?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the letter.
Second.
Okay. Do we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Agrimonti,
Aye.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 401.
All right. All right, so do we have council member reports or comments? No?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. When I spoke to our city manager, she expressed, in fact, I just sent a thank you email earlier this evening to Brian Albee. I did not realize, and I hope the city manager, I get it right, but we have a fare free program here for buses. And as Kathy Capriola explained, that's happening all over the county. So people are not paying fares for buses, which I think is wonderful. So I just wanted to thank the Transportation Authority for doing that.
And then I'd say as a member of the Transportation Authority, we are facing, and all cities are facing now, an attack by a number of business groups to try to strike down every single sales tax measure throughout the county, including this, as well as the Go Sonoma Act and the mental health ballot measure that is being put, the new one, the only new one that's being put on by the county. So we decided at SCTA to go forward. One of these individuals is went after Smart Train as well, and you'll probably see this regularly throughout the county. So if we don't kind of stand up to it now, then there really isn't, we won't be able to pass these. SCTA's measure is crucial for the paving of new roads, the paving of existing roads, for existing road infrastructure, for repaving potholes and fixing those kinds of things. It doubles the amount of funding for that. It also triples the amount of funding for bikeways and doubles the amount of funding for. So if you want good local roads, vote for the Go Sonoma Act. And if you want, poverty, minority, and low-income populations, as well as seniors, I think it's really crucial that we continue to fund those programs. And then with the city's measure, I would say that we are expecting. Am I allowed to talk about this, Kathy?
No.
No? Okay, I can't talk about it. All right, so never mind. But vote for our city sales tax measure as a continuation, please. And so then we'll go on to city manager comments and announcements.
Yes, so just very briefly, as council knows, the rolling blackouts, it looks like we were on the list today from 5 to 8, and they had enough energy with everyone in probably a variety of ways conserving to make sure that those rolling blackouts did not have to occur. There'll be the same situation tomorrow, though. We'll be in a flex situation tomorrow. So again, we'll need everyone to do their part so that hopefully no one loses energy for 90 minutes or so or longer. There were, just for the public, it does look like on PG&E's website, at least an hour ago, there were some transformers in different places that may have blown, not in the city limits, but El Verano and a few in the Springs. So not large areas, but some spots of folks that may be without power, but that is not, wasn't due to the rolling blackout. It's probably just other stresses on the system. Cooling center was open today. I don't know numbers, didn't hear what that looks like. We'll get some information at council what we do. It will be open again tomorrow. I want to thank Sonoma County, EOC, and General Services staff for pulling that together. We were willing to help them staff and work through that, but they really kind of pulled all this together. And I think it's been a really good trial balloon for us to see how do we do charging centers or cooling centers in the world of COVID, and learn what the level of interest is as well. As we think about evacuations with fire and COVID, it's a whole new world. So tomorrow the cooling center will be open again at the Sonoma Vets from 11 to 7. They are screening temperatures and a questionnaire, and you have to have a face covering. So again, we still have excessive heat warning here in the Valley through Wednesday, and everyone do your part and stay cool. So that's it. Thank you, Mayor Harvey.
Thank you.
And Mayor Harvey, I do have one comment.
Yes.
We're going to start our Chardonnay harvest tomorrow, which is probably the earliest we've ever started. So that's what I'll be doing at 6 o'clock in the morning. So
that's exciting. Where are you harvesting?
On the east side of Sonoma.
Wonderful.
Hillside Chardonnay. So
there you go. Nice.
Let the games begin, and that is not to sparkling wine. That's a still wine. So it's probably the earliest I've ever harvested in 25 years. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but after those lightning strikes, it's just, I want to get it off the vines.
I'm sure if you're growing it either way, it's good. And City Attorney Jeff Walter, do we have comments?
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting of Sonoma City Council, August 17th, 2020, the year of everything. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, LaTanya, and thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Kathy and John Abachi. Your magicians, Rebecca and LaTanya.